Chapter 1: Danzo's New Weapon. You took Naruto, didn't you? Hiruzen angrily accused. Hiruzen, I don't have the Jinchuriki, Danzo replied. Hiruzen, calm down, you don't have enough evidence to assume, one of the council members said. He simply glared at the person and continued. Danzo, hand the child over. Like I told you before, I don't have him. Hey. A loud slam was heard. Hiruzen was in distress. A few hours had passed since the Kyuubi attacked his village and killed the yondaime and his wife. 2 children were also born. They were Maito and Naruto, the children of yondaime Hokage-sama, the red-hot habanero, and he would do anything to get their son back. While Hiruzen was packing back and forth in his office, Danzo was grinning to himself. He had gotten himself a new weapon, but not just any weapon, a Jinchuriki. Yes, you heard that right, Danzo did in fact kidnap the child. It was when Minato and Kushina got stabbed by the Kyuubi's claw. Once he made sure the 2 were dead, he took the new Jinchuriki and ran off, ignoring the other child that didn't matter to him because she wasn't of any use. Danzo walked into his secret base and went an empty room while carrying Naruto. He looked at him eagerly as Naruto was going to be the Leaf's new ultimate weapon. Danzo smirked at the baby, imagining how useful he'll be in the future. For now, he'll just need to be patient until the young age of 4 because that's when he'll start his training. Hey. The 4-year-old boy sat in his small room staring into space. It was October 10th, the day he unknowingly got kidnapped. His day usually consists of waking up, eating his breakfast, staring into space, eating lunch, sleeping, eating dinner, and going back to sleep. He would occasionally get some crayons and paper to draw on, but that's pretty much it. Naruto never went outside. He never even left his own room. All he knew was a square room with a bed, desk, and closet, and a masked man who gives him food every day. His usual routine was interrupted by a knock on his door. He's earlier than usual, the 4-year-old kid thought to himself. The door opened to reveal a masked man that had a scary aura, according to Naruto. Come with me, the anonymous man ordered. Naruto followed, and he was led into an unfamiliar office. He never left his room, so he was excited to finally see something that wasn't a white wall and wooden floor. Danzo sat on his chair, and a pale boy with black hair that was about Naruto's age was in front of him. The blonde stood next to the other boy as instructed, and Danzo began talking. You 2 will be partners for becoming a root agent. From now on, you'll be sharing a room and will help each other with training. You can introduce yourselves later. The 4-year-old boys were confused but nodded, and an Anbu appeared behind them, making them jump. He told them to follow him like he said before, and they obediently did so. The root agent led them to a slightly bigger room with 2 beds on each side and a desk in front of the beds. You'll start your training in an hour, the masked Anbu said before body flickering away. The black and blonde-haired boys were left alone, and remembering what Danzo said, they introduced themselves. Hello, my name is Uzumaki Naruto, he said cheerfully. Hi, call me Sai, the pale boy said in a flat tone. Let's be friends, the ray of sunshine said. Sure, Sai agreed. Within that hour, both of the boys got to know each other. They talked about random things to cure their boredom, like what they do during the day. They didn't have much in common, but they got along nonetheless. Their bedroom door opened, and a man wearing boar mask came in. From now on, I'll be your sensei, follow me, the tall man said emotionlessly. Naruto and Sai thought their training meant fighting, but they were told they had to learn about Konoha's history, clans, and other things first. They took the 2 seats in the tiny classroom. The boar-masked Anbu stood in front of them and started talking. We'll start with the rules for being a root Anbu. Sai raised his hand. What's an Anbu? There are 4 ranks for being a shinobi. The lowest is Genin, then Chunin, Jonin, and finally Anbu. Anbu, being the highest rank, serves directly under their cage. There is usually 1 type of Anbu, but Konoha is different because there are 2. One is the Black Ops. They are like other Anbus from other nations. The other is Root. We serve under Danzo-sama, the man you met an hour ago. Sai nodded at the detailed explanation and let his sensei continue with his lesson. There are many rules for being a root agent, and you are expected to follow all of them from today onwards. Boar knew it'll put pressure on the 4-year-olds, but it wasn't like he cared. He continued by saying, "The first rule is one of the most important. Always follow Danzo-sama's orders no matter what." Even if they are a higher rank like the Hokage, Naruto asks. Yes, follow Danzo-sama's command even if a higher rank says not to. What happens if we fail? Naruto asks again. You'll be punished. Depending on the importance of the order, you could be executed. Oh, Naruto said nervously. For the second rule, it's to never fail a mission. You must always complete your mission successfully, even if it means abandoning your teammates. The third rule is to never show your emotions. The both of you will be an exception because you haven't been trained on it yet. The fourth is, after a few hours of sitting in a room and listening on the many rules they'll need to follow from today, they were finally allowed to go back to their room and rest. What if I accidentally break one of the rules and get killed? Naruto asked to Sai worryingly. Relax, a lot of the rules don't apply to us because we haven't been trained yet. But as long as you follow orders and be respectful, I'm sure you'll be fine. Okay, Naruto said, trusting his friend. Do you think we'll continue to be stuck in that classroom for hours? Sai asks. I hope not. I was practically falling asleep. Sai let out a small chuckle after hearing Naruto's comment. I guess we'll get our answer tomorrow, Sai says. Tomorrow? We're going back tomorrow. Didn't you listen? No. Chapter 2, Last Words. It had been a year since he and his best friend, Sai, started their learning on many different things. They waited for their sensei as they usually do, and when an Anbu barged in. Instead of the boar-masked Anbu, an Anbu with an ox mask came in. Sai and Naruto were confused, and their new sensei, seeing this, said, I'll be your sensei from now on. Instead of sitting in a classroom all day, you'll be learning how to fight and defend yourself. The two nodded, now understand their situation, and followed the man to a large room with training dummies and weapons on the back wall. The room wasn't bright, but good enough to see everything in it. Ox closed the door and stood in front of Sai and Naruto. He said, we will spar so I can see your skills and what you'll need to work on. Sai, you're first. Sai was a little nervous, but he followed his sensei to the middle of the room. Begin, Ox said emotionlessly. The two began throwing punches and kicks at each other. It was obvious that the older man was more powerful with his ruthless attacks at his student. On the other hand, Sai was getting beat up brutally. He tried his best to attack Ox, but his punches were sloppy and slow, so they were easily caught by the Anbu. 5 minutes later, the pale boy passed out and fell on the cold floor, unable to move. The ox-masked Anbu stopped and picked him up. After placing Sai on the floor in a sitting position next to Naruto, he called him over for his turn. After seeing his friends spar with the root agent, he shakily walked to him. Begin, Ox repeated. Naruto tried to punch Ox's stomach straight away but was caught right after. The root Anbu kicked Naruto's chest, which made him fall on the floor backwards. After a while of the one-sided fight, Naruto managed to touch Ox. Though his attack was weak and caused no damage, it was still impressive that he could even touch him. Not letting that affect him, he swiftly moved his leg to trip the blonde before pinning down on the ground. He quickly took a kunai and aimed it on top of his neck, making sure Naruto can feel the sharp tip of the weapon. He got off the Jinchuriki and told him to rest until Sai woke up so they can continue their training. When Sai eventually woke up, Ox didn't waste any time for their training, so he began giving tips to improve their fighting style and strategy. Sai, your attacks are too predictable and slow. He then showed how to make his punches have more force, as making them quicker would be the next step. Ox turned to the whiskered boy and said, Naruto, your defense is weak and don't have a strategy to defeat your opponent. The sensei demonstrated a stance that'll help with his defenses and told him that he'll teach strategies to him and Sai later. They practiced for 2 more hours while Ox slowly taught them more and more as they improved. After the 2 hours, he sat them down and, like their old sensei, Boar, he talked about how to make their offense more unpredictable and what to do in certain situations. Of course, he wasn't able to cover it all, but he gave them the basic idea so they can learn from experience. It was already night, so he dismissed them to get some rest. Sai and Naruto walked back to their shared room tiredly. Sai jumped on his bed, exhausted from his rough training with Ox. It was nearly midnight, which was also the time their room lights automatically turn off, so the two just went to bed, easily falling asleep. Hey. Naruto and Sai woke up, oblivious on what will happen on today's special training session. They woke up at 7:30 a.m. and ate breakfast at 7:45. The 8-year-olds dressed in their usual attire, which was an Anbu uniform without the armor and mask. Over the 2 years, the two got to know each other really well. Though it was mostly because they were forced to be together 24/7, they became inseparable. They could talk about anything in the world or nothing at all without getting awkward. They had an hour left until Ox would barge into their room to start training, so they decided to keep each other company by taking. Their 1-hour conversation got interrupted by an Anbu opening the door without knocking. When they looked at the Anbu, they were surprised because they were expecting it to be Ox, but instead, it was an Anbu whose mask is the shape of a rat. "Come with me." "Where's Ox?" Sai asked curiously. "He's teaching his new students," Rat said in a monotone. Rat lead them to an unfamiliar place in the root base. Unlike most training places in the base, it wasn't dull with a spacious room and plain walls and floors. It was outside with lots of trees and bushes surrounding a clearing. When they went in, they saw Danzo waiting for them. "What's Danzo-sama doing here?" Naruto whispered to Sai. "I don't know," he responded. They stood in the middle of a clearing in the forest facing each other as instructed, feeling like something terrible was about to happen. Rat flickered out of the forest after bowing to his superior. When he left, the room got tense and no one said a word until Danzo decided it was time to start. "Before becoming an Anbu, you'll take this final test. The test will be for the both of you to fight to the death." Their eyes widened. "Danzo-sama, you're saying we need to kill each other?" a scared Sai asked. "Yes." The worried boys stood there, unsure on what to do since neither were willing to kill each other. Their thoughts were interrupted by their leader saying, "Begin." Danzo's body flickered away, knowing that this will end badly no matter what happens. None of the two 8-year-olds has ever killed, so killing their best friend they've known for several years was a big leap to Danzo's plan on making his own weapon. He was smirking to himself. He knew it was cruel and rushed, but it was effective, so it wasn't like it mattered to him. This was his first step on making Naruto a killing machine. The boys didn't move an inch. They just stared at each other, silently begging for the other to make the first move. Sai couldn't take it anymore, so he ran off to a random direction that was covered with trees. Naruto followed his friend slowly, since he wants to delay the fighting as much as he can. When he caught up with Sai, he had a kunai in his hand and stood in a stance that looked like he was ready to attack. Sai muttered something while tears were forming in his eyes and ran towards Naruto. He dodged all of Sai's attacks but didn't attack back. He couldn't harm his first friend, let alone kill him. Naruto noticed that Sai wasn't going all out, so he wasn't fully on guard. That was his mistake. The pale boy suddenly changed his speed and was about to stab next to Naruto's heart until the whiskered boy's instincts took over. Naruto instinctively moved to the side so the kunai wouldn't cut him, and he took out his katana. Naruto swung his katana on Sai's left shoulder, causing him to wince. Then, he was about to stab through Sai's heart when he snapped out of his trance. Just as Sai realized that he wasn't going to get killed, he asked barely above a whisper, "Why didn't you kill me?" Naruto quietly responded, "I couldn't." There was an intense silence after that. Naruto didn't lower his blade that was still in front of Sai's heart. "Kill me," Sai broke the silence. What? "Kill me." "Why?" "One of us will die, that will be me." "No. If you don't, I'll kill myself." Sai weakly limped towards the blade, making it slowly cut his skin. Naruto moved the katana back a little. Hot tears about flow out of his eyes, and he processed what his best friend just said. His chest began to hurt badly as Sai kept walking, tears already falling from his black eyes. "Oh, wait." Sai stopped. "I'll kill you." Sai had a small but grateful smile on his face as water bursted out of Naruto's ocean-colored eyes as he stabbed Sai through the heart. Blood spattered on his shaky hands as well as the grass around them. The last thing he heard before passing out was his friend's last words. Thank you. Chapter 3: Dull Eyes. It had been 2 months since Naruto moved out of his and his friend's room. Ever since that happened, his eyes went from full of life to dull and lifeless. He was about to start when an Anbu came in saying, Danzo-sama is calling for you. Naruto, who lost most of his emotions over the time span of 2 months thanks to Danzo's training, got up and went to his usual training ground without question. When he went in, he shut the door and looked at Danzo. Naruto. Yes, Danzo-sama. Follow me. He nodded and followed him from behind. The route leader called for some Anbu trainees, and when they arrived, Danzo ordered Naruto to kill them all. The trainees became terrified when they heard what Danzo said, but it didn't last long as Naruto quickly killed them. There were 2 trainees, one was sliced through the neck by a kunai and the other was stabbed in the heart. Though Danzo could see a slight hesitation when he killed the trainees, he said, good. He walked out of the room with Naruto trailing behind him. They went to the middle of the base where there were 4 paths that lead to the middle. Underneath was a pit, and if you fall in it, you'll definitely die. Stand in the middle, Danzo instructed. When he said begin, 4 Chunin-level shinobis appeared and ran towards Naruto, who simply stood there. Then Naruto's body flickered behind the first one and snapped his neck, 2 of them throwing weapons, one in front of his face and one on the back of his head. He ducked and the 2 killed each other, leaving one left. The last one was a little more challenging, but at the end, Naruto won by stabbing his neck. The blonde stood in the middle, panting slightly, and made his fist into a ball so it would stop shaking. Danzo assessed Naruto and was impressed. Naruto was slowly turning into a killing machine that can get a clean kill quickly in just 2 months. Though he was impressed, he wasn't going to give Naruto a rest, so he said, Naruto, we're going to continue training. Come. The boy that Danzo is slowly turning into his weapon obediently followed behind him. Hey. There was a rustle from a nearby bush. Danzo turned to the bush and walked calmly towards it. Naruto's clone dispelled and a kunai shot at Danzo's head behind him. He dodged it and the kunai stabbed the tree, leaving a deep dent. Danzo, feeling like Naruto was good enough to get his first mission, stopped their spar. It had been a year since Danzo started training Naruto, and since then, Naruto changed drastically. 11 months ago, he hesitated to kill his opponents and had some of his emotions left in him, but now, whoever Danzo wanted killed, Naruto would do so, burying every bit of emotions he had left in him. The 2 walked through the long and dark hallways, stopping in front of Danzo's office. He ordered the Anbus guarding it to leave, and as they did, he sat on his office chair. Naruto, I've decided that you can start doing missions. Your codename will be Kitun, but before you do, there are secrets you should know, the older man said to the 9-year-old in front of him. You are the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, meaning that you're the son of the Yondaime. As you should know, the Yondaime had 2 children, you and Uzumaki Mido. The boy nodded, not showing any emotions to the many secrets being revealed. You'll start your first mission tomorrow morning. For now, leave the base and explore Konoha, but make sure to stay hidden. Yes, Danzo-sama. Naruto left to his room and opened his bedroom door to find a fox mask and Anbu uniform neatly on his bed. Deciding that he should familiarize himself with Konoha's alleyways and dark corners, he changed into the gear and left. It was the first time he left the base, but he knew where everything is thanks to the maps his first teacher showed them. He hid in the shadows and ran on rooftops. After realizing that Danzo didn't give him specific orders and just told him to explore, he went to the Shinobi Academy. He went in the big academy and scanned his eyes through the hallway. He stopped when he saw a red-haired girl who looked like Kushina. Uzumaki Mido, my sister, Naruto thought as he observed her. She's too loud and has no self-control. Unlike the other girls, it seems like she doesn't like the Hyuga boy. In fact, it seems like she hates him. His sister Mido angrily walked the opposite direction from the Hyuga boy after her argument with him while dragging a Hyuga girl with her. Naruto went to the roof where he thought Mido would drag her friend to. He hid his chakra and stayed a safe distance away from them so he could observe them more. Though Naruto didn't care about his sister and would kill her if ordered to, he was just curious on what she's like. The two lived very differently from each other. Mito lived in the light where she could make friends and live a carefree life, but for Naruto, he had to live in the dark where you must always follow orders and suppress all your emotions. "That arrogant bastard," Mito shouted. "Why you should see calm down, Mito." "I would if I could," she pouted. "He a bitch just because he's stronger and a year older than us doesn't mean he can make fun of you." "It's effing really," she shyly said. "It isn't. He can't just vent his anger on you just because you're the main branch of your family." Naruto listened to their conversation, wondering why Mito is getting so furious over something she's not part of. He listened to the two for another hour before the girl he now knew the name of, Hinata, had to leave. After that, Naruto walked around Konoha, but what I meant by walk was going from alleyways to alleyways and roofs to roofs. By the time he went back to the Root Anbu base, it was already evening, so he reported what he saw to Danzo and ate a healthy but not so tasty dinner. Chapter 4: Naruto's First Mission. Naruto woke up early at 6:30 to start his first mission. He got up and quickly got ready so he won't keep Danzo-sama waiting. Once he changed to his Anbu attire, he sunshined to his leader's office. "Danzo-sama," Naruto said to get his attention. "Kitsune," he said, knowing the reason why Naruto was there. He continued, "Your first mission is to assassinate this man." He pulled out a file of the man, showing Naruto where he can be located and his strengths and weaknesses. "You'll have 3 days to do this." Dismissed. "Yes, Danzo-sama," the young Root Anbu said before body flickering away. "Hey." Kitsune was ready to attack after a day to find him and a couple hours to observe. He was in an alleyway smoking cigarettes while enjoying the peaceful night. Once the time was right, Naruto silently jumped down from the roof he was in and aimed his katana to slice the man's head. He ducked and successfully dodged the sword, revealing Kitsune's hiding spot. The Anbu ignored him and jumped back, throwing a kunai at him which grazed his cheek lightly. The brown-haired man attempted to punch the Anbu's face but barely missed as he took that chance to stab him with another kunai. This time it worked and his target's stomach poured out blood. His killer wasn't going to take any chances, so he slowly took out a kunai out of his pouch, about to stab him. He paused when he saw the body slump onto the cold alley and shakily asked, "Who are you?" "A Kitsune." After that, he stabbed him on the neck, killing him in seconds. "Mission complete," he muttered before pulling his katana out of the man's neck and sealing his body in a scroll. After making sure he left no traces of him being there behind, he body flickered away and made his way back to Konoha, which would take him at least a day until he arrives. The child jumped from tree to tree using chakra control so he wouldn't fall. He avoided all the shinobi using his sensory and skillfully sneaked back into Konoha without alerting anyone. The Anbu went straight back to the root base and immediately went to Danzo to report his first mission. "Enter," Danzo said after hearing a knock on his door. Kitsune entered and reported his mission professionally, like he's been doing it for ages. After the report on his first mission, Danzo dismissed him and told him he could train for the next mission, which would be the next day. Naruto responded with his usual, "Yes, Danzo-sama," before flickering away. "Hey." Naruto was now 12 years old. It had been 3 years since he started doing missions for Danzo, and because of the difficult life-or-death missions he received, he was almost as strong as the copy ninja, Hade Kakashi. Naruto was training himself after his most recent mission, which was to collect information on a certain snake Sannin. He was about to go back to his room after his torture-like training until an Anbu appeared in front of him. The Root Anbu who stood in the middle of the training ground said, "Kitsune, Danzo-sama is calling for you." He nodded and flashed to the Root leader's office. He kneeled before Danzo and noticed a short man in white robes glaring at his leader. "Who is he?" Naruto questioned while trying to spot the man's weaknesses and strengths in case he attacks. While he was observing the man, he was failing to see the hat that had the character Chinese letter on it. "He's here, Hiruzen," the back-haired man said to the Hokage, who turned his head quickly to face the little Anbu. "So did you take Naruto or not?" he impatiently asks. "I didn't take him, but you wouldn't believe me, would you?" The Hokage nodded in response, and the man he hated suggested, "How about you ask him yourself?" "Sure, why not?" he said smugly. "Naruto, did you come here by your own will?" "Yes." "When did you go to Danzo?" "When I was 4. Where were you before you went to him?" "Outside of Konoha." "If so, why didn't my shinobi find you?" "They weren't enough. I ordered my most trusted Anbu to find you. I'm sure they would have been able to," he protested. "Either way, you still don't have enough proof that I kidnapped Naruto." A smirking Danzo interrupted the Hokage's interrogation. "True, but I guess I should get to the point on why I came here," the old Hokage grumbled unhappily. "You weren't here to argue to get the boy back?" Danzo asked while turning to Naruto. "Not exactly, I came here to make a deal with you." "Then why do you need him?" Hiruzen ignored his question and said, "My deal is that Naruto will become a genin and be in a team with kids his age." "What do I get?" Danzo asked skeptically. "He will still be able to take your missions, and he will be in the same team as Itachi's younger brother," the Sandaime said, knowing that Danzo was always pestering the older Uchiha to join Root. "His sensei will also be Kakashi," he said to persuade Danzo more. "Naruto will also get the chance to climb up the ranks, which will be more useful on missions." "Will Naruto still be able to take my missions?" "Yes," Sarutobi sighs, "but I'll need to inform Kakashi so he'll know why Naruto will be absent on some missions." Danzo nodded. The Hokage smiled and said, "The genin exams start tomorrow at the Shinobi Academy," before walking away. Hey. Naruto woke up at 7:45 in the morning to get ready for the exam. He found normal-looking clothes on his desk since he only has Anbu uniforms. He body flickered to the academy and skillfully hid his chakra and walked silently to the classroom. The Uzumaki opened the door, scaring the sensei since he was undetectable. "Who are you?" a student asks. "Ah, Naruto, you're here," Uruka said kindly. "This is Uzumaki Naruto." Uzumaki, a red-haired girl, interrupted. "Yes, he's here to take the genin exams." "Why wasn't he in the academy then?" a confused academy student asked. "I haven't been told. So he just gets to skip all your boring lessons?" The teacher looked dumbfounded and let out a tired sigh before saying, "Yes. My name is Yumimo Uruka, call me Uruka-sensei," he introduced. "You can sit next to the loud purple-eyed girl." Naruto nodded and went to the girl who was glaring at her sensei. The girl looked curiously at Naruto and said, "We look alike." "We do. My name's Uzumaki Maido." She extends her hand towards the Jinchuriki. He shook it without saying a word, which made her say, "You're really quiet," while pouting. After that, their sensei started talking and gave out a written exam. Maido's happy-go-lucky face turned into horror as she received the paper and muttered something about not passing the test. When Uruka said, "Begin," everyone started with nervous faces with a few exceptions who were Uchiha Sasuke with an overconfident face, Nara Shikamaru who looked like he wanted to sleep, and Uzumaki Naruto whose face stayed stoic as always. 5 minutes later, a hand raised. "Yes, Naruto," Uruka asks. "I finished." A few whispers were heard, but Uruka shushed them and asked again, "You finished the test?" "Yes." "Did you check it?" "Yes." "Are you sure you want to turn it in now?" "Yes." "Okay then," he sighed. Naruto walked over to the academy teacher and handed him his test before leaving the classroom. 55 minutes later, he and a few others who either rushed the exam or found it easy was lead outside to start the second part, kunai and shuriken throwing. Uruka gave Naruto 10 kunais and shuriken and waited for him to throw them. His eyes popped out when he saw that all the kunai and shuriken hit the center. He was even more shocked when he realized that Naruto beat Sasuke in the number of shuriken and kunais hitting the target. He congratulated Naruto as he led his students back to the classroom. Uruka called the first name on his list, and the two went to take the final part of the test in the room next door. Hey. It was almost an hour until Naruto's name was called, since his name was one of the last on the sensei's list. Naruto followed Uruka to the examination room and waited patiently for his instructions. "All right," Uruka said as he sat on the long desk with a white-haired man. Please make at least 3 clones, a substitution, and a transformation jutsu. Naruto made 3 clones which transformed into his leader, Danzo. Then the clones dispelled themselves while he substituted with a chair next to Uruka. Is that Danzo? Chapter 5, Team 7. Naruto arrived back at the base at the evening and was walking down the familiar hallways, occasionally passing by the other route agents who he hadn't give a second glance to. He stopped Danzo's office since he was called and went in after he granted permission. I have a new mission for you, Kitsune, Danzo said. Naruto, who was already in his Anbu attire, carefully listened to his superior, not missing a detail. Your mission is to kill the Academy Sensei, Mizuki, and bring the scroll of sealing back to the Hokage. Once he was done, Naruto coldly said, Yes, Danzo-sama. Hey. He ran on the large tree branches, going to his destination and target. Kitsune stopped when he saw a girl who he recognized as his sister, holding a scroll that was the same height as her. After he identified it as the scroll of sealing, he shifted from his hiding spot to get into a good position to aim his kunai. The kunai stabbed into Mizuki's neck, killing him instantly. A shocked Maido watched as her sensei fell and landed on the ground with a thump. Kitsune knew he couldn't kill the witness, which meant he was discovered. Just as he jumped silently on the grass, Uruka ran to Maido, checking his surroundings as he did so. After intentionally making an almost silent footstep, Uruka turned to the short Anbu who went to Maido and grabbed the scroll and sealed the dead shinobi without a word. Who are you? He asks cautiously. Confidential. What's your code name? Kitsune. Uruka nodded slowly, still not trusting the Anbu since the Hokage would have told him. After a while of silence, Kitsune body flickered away, leaving Maido and Uruka behind. Naruto appeared in Danzo's office. He knelt down like he always did and only spoke when he heard Danzo say, Report. Once he did, Naruto began his report in a clear but dull voice. Meanwhile, Uruka was jumping from roof to the Hokage's tower. He was still suspicious of the Anbu, finding it hard to believe that the Hokage, the person he respects the most, would allow a young boy to become an Anbu. He knew that people like Kakashi became an Anbu at the age of 13, but it was the time of war. Hokage-sama wouldn't let a kid join the Anbu, not after Itachi, the Academy Sensei though, as he knocked on the door. Come in, said the muffled voice that belonged to the Hokage. Uruka came in, hoping that his questions would get answered. You finished your mission already, Uruka? Hokage-sama asks. Hey. Uruka came into the classroom. It was the day after the Genin exams and he was going to assign teams. It's true, a red-haired girl says. You're saying that an Anbu, the kind of Anbu that never shows themselves, openly killed Mizuki-sensei? Yes. Uruka sighed as he shut the class up and looked at Naruto. Last night he was told that Naruto was apparently a lot stronger than he thought. The sensei wished he could have been told more, but since it was confidential, he couldn't. Congratulations on passing, he said with a smile. Today I'll be assigning your teams, so listen carefully. Team 1. After a few minutes, the stoic boy heard his name. Team 7, Uzumaki Naruto, Uzumaki Maido, and Uchiha Sasuke. The duck-ass grunted in annoyance for having the class idiot and the new kid who seemed to have no social life. His sensei continued until he reached Team 10. After that, he left the classroom while the Jonin senseis took their Genin team. The only team that was left was Team 7. They waited for another hour or two, so Maido, deciding that she should pull a prank to help with her boredom, put an eraser on the door. She snickered and waited until they finally heard the door open. There's no way a Jonin would be able to fall for that, Sasuke sighed. His thoughts were changed as the eraser fell on the white-haired Jonin. Meet me at the roof, the Jonin instructor said before body flickering away. While he waited for his cute little Genins, his mind ran through what the Hokage said to him earlier. One of your Genins, Uzumaki Naruto, is an Anbu. He'll be absent on some of your missions with your team to please try to hide it from them, the voice said in his head. Why is an Anbu in my team, and why is there even a 12-year-old in the Anbu, and isn't he Maido's brother? He remembered saying to his leader. He's under Danzo's control. The Hokage paused. I made a deal with him to let Naruto become a genin with his sister. The sensei was forced out of his thoughts by a body flicker. He looked over to see his emotionless student Naruto. After that, the rest of his students arrived and looked confused to see their teammate already there. How did you get here so fast? Mito asks. Body flicker. You know the body flicker, Sasuke said. Yes. Anyway, Kakashi interrupted. Let's move on, introduce yourself, he said, pointing to Mito. Why don't you introduce yourself first? Fine, my name's Hatake Kakashi. You're too young to know likes and my dislikes are none of your business. My hobbies are the same as my likes and I've never thought of my dream. 2 out of his 3 students deadpanned at him. All we learned was your name, Mito muttered. Your turn. She huffed and said, my name is Uzumaki Mito. My likes are ramen and Uruka-sensei. My dislikes are waiting more than 3 minutes to make ramen and my hobbies are trying out different ramen. My dream is to become Hokage, she says enthusiastically, especially for her dream. Kakashi nodded and pointed at Sasuke who said, my name's Uchiha Sasuke. I have some things I like and more things I don't. My hobbies are training and my dream, which will become reality, is to kill the man I call my brother, Itachi. Kakashi sighed at his emo student, which went unnoticed by them except for his most strange student, Naruto. He looked at the boy whose face has anything but emotion in it. Naruto nodded at the silent gesture and said in a flat tone, my name's Uzumaki Naruto. I don't have any likes nor dislikes. I don't have hobbies as well as a dream. We didn't learn anything from him either, Mito muttered to herself again. Kakashi stood up and said before body flickering away, now that we've introduced ourselves, meet at training ground 7 at 6:30 tomorrow morning. I suggest not to eat unless you want to throw up. Chapter 6 Bell Test. Kakashi opened the Hokage's door after being told that he was summoned. Kakashi, you're here, the Hokage says. The masked man noticed that Danzo was also there and wondered why they needed him. Just like reading his mind, Hiruzen said, you're here because we need to talk to you about Naruto. One of my genin, he thought. Danzo, finally deciding to speak, said straightforwardly, the Uzumaki is under my command. I've trained him since he was 4 and he takes route missions for me. Wait, Naruto is in Route Anbu. Kakashi's eyes went wide. Yes, I hope you know that this is a secret and our conversation can't leave this room. Kakashi nodded. Let's get back to the point, Hokage-sama said. Once you start missions with your genin team, Naruto will be absent in some of them, so if your team asks about it, tell them not to question it. Okay, was the short reply said by the still curious Hatake before being dismissed. Hey. Naruto arrived at training ground 7 exactly at 6:30. His teammates looked tired and hungry while Naruto looked fine. They waited for another 3 hours for their sensei to arrive, and when he did, the Kunoichi scolded him by screaming, "You're late." The Uchiha grumbled angrily at his sensei, while the Jonin tried to calm the two down. Kakashi pulled out 2 bells from his weapon pouch and started explaining the rules to his exercise. "Hey, begin," Kakashi said. His genins jumped away to hide in some bushes or trees while Kakashi took out an orange book titled Ika Ika Paradise and began reading it. While reading, he was sensing his genin. Mito was in a bush, Sasuke was standing on a tree branch, and Naruto was nowhere to be found. Suddenly, he saw a blur in the corner of his eye and barely dodged a kunai to his head. He swiftly turned around to see his blonde student, Naruto, landing on his feet without a sound and disappearing in a flash again. Kakashi put his book back in his pouch and waited for another attack, but there was none. At least that was what he thought until a punch landed on his stomach. Kakashi winced in pain as Naruto took the opportunity to steal Kakashi's bells. Unluckily for him, Kakashi was able to move to his right to avoid the Uzumaki's hands, and the blonde landed of the ground. He quickly got up and went back to hide to think of a plan. Hey. Naruto's hand almost grazed the bells, but he luckily got hold of them and stood, panting in front of a tired Kakashi. After catching his breath, Kakashi asks, "So, who are you going to give the bell?" after seeing Sasuke and Mito walking out of their obvious hiding places. Without thinking, Naruto tossed the bell to Sasuke, who caught it easily. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, asking for an explanation, which Naruto gave. Sasuke is more mature and quieter than Mito, so he's most likely to survive on missions and will be more useful, he said tonelessly. The sensei sighed as he told his genin the actual purpose of the exercise. He ended his long explanation by saying, "Those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than scum." "So we don't pass?" Mito asked after a long awkward silence. "If I don't let them pass, I'll not only have the council to deal with but also Danzo," Kakashi pondered. Not wanting to deal with the annoying council and especially an angry Danzo, he answered, "You pass." Mito jumped around in joy as Sasuke smirked confidently, while Naruto stood there like nothing had happened. After Mito calmed down, Kakashi said, "Meet me at the bridge tomorrow morning for our first mission." He then disappeared, but before that he said, "In the shinobi world, those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than scum." The three genin nodded, with some taking it more seriously than other. Once they left, Sasuke headed back home while Mito went to get ramen. Naruto body flickered back to Root Base where he would train with Danzo. "Hey." Again, the man around the Hokage's age instructed. Naruto obeyed and went through the hand signs for a wind bullet jutsu once again. The bullet shot through the air and hit the middle of the wooden target. Naruto received a nod as a praise from Danzo as he moved onto a different wind-style jutsu he wanted Naruto to learn. Naruto discovered his chakra nature, wind, a few years ago, but his sensei wanted him to focus on taijutsu and kenjutsu more. Of course, he did learn basic jutsus like the substitution, shadow clones, transformation, and a few more, and chakra control like tree and water walking, but he knew nothing other else than that. Danzo's hand made different signs and he muttered, "Gale Palm." Then an almost transparent blade formed out of nowhere and sliced the target in front of them, making a deep slash on the target. Naruto then copied the hand signs and a smaller blade, which was more transparent than Danzo's, appeared in the air. It shot at the target, but just as it was about to hit it, it disappeared. He repeated the signs for a Gale Palm, not showing any sign of frustration when he kept failing. Soon enough, a blade the same size as Danzo's formed and ran to the already cut target. The circular wooden target was split into two and fell on the grassy ground in seconds. Danzo nodded in approval and asked, "Tomorrow is your first mission with Team 7, right?" "Yes." He hummed as a response and said, "I'm going to work. You can continue your training if you'd like." "Yes, Danzo-sama," said Naruto's usual response to Danzo. The man left the training ground that belonged to Root and made his way back to his base to continue his work. Meanwhile, Naruto decided to work on his speed and began running laps around the secluded training area. An hour later, he headed back to the base, panting and sweating on the way. He hid in the shadows created by the tall buildings and hid his chakra so he would be undetectable. The Root agent went near the borders of Konoha and went to the base he lived in. Naruto walked down the narrow and dark hallway and occasionally passed through some anbus who didn't give him a second thought. He arrived at his room and changed out of his clothes to go to sleep. Chapter 7: Naruto's First Mission. Naruto woke up early in the morning. He changed into his usual outfit and left quickly to the bridge his sensei instructed him and his team to meet in. When he arrived, he noticed that the emo kid in his team was there, resting on the rails, while the hyperactive kid in his team was leaning on the handrails, sleeping soundlessly. Naruto went up to them and sat on the rail, getting a quick glance from Sasuke. "Hey." A sleeping Sasuke and Mito were woken by a puff of smoke made by Kakashi. He greeted his team happily despite being 4 hours late. "Sorry, a black cat crossed my path so I had to take the long way," said the masked man's lame excuse. "Liar," Mito called out. He shrugged and said, "Let's go." Mito's annoyed mood changed and immediately ran to the Hokage's office excitedly, leaving the rest of her team trailing behind her. "Come in," said the kind Hokage after they arrived to the office. Kakashi opened the wooden door and went in with his genin team. "What kind of mission are we getting, old man?" Mito asks with her eyes glowing from excitement. He handed the sensei of the team a scroll and answered, "Your first mission is to catch the daimyo's cat, Tora." Sasuke and Mito were dumbfounded, though Sasuke hid it much better than Mito. Kakashi sighed as he remembered catching the demon cat when he was a genin while Naruto's face stayed expressionless. They were dismissed by the Sandaime and went to the forest near Konoha's border to search for the cat. Hey. Around 30 minutes into searching for the cat, Naruto said, "I found the target." Where? Mito shouted through her earpiece, successfully deafening her teammates. After sharing his location to his team, they quietly made their way towards it. Raven in position, Emo grunted. Chili in position, the hot-headed girl reported angrily. Naruto in position, he said dryly. Hey, why doesn't Naruto get a nickname? Mito pouted. Their lazy sensei shrugged and signaled them to ambush the cat. They nodded and pounced at the cat. Tora was put into a cage after the genins managed to capture it and went back to their Hokage after a few scratches on their face and arms. When they arrived, they have the demon cat back to its owner, who hugged it tightly. While the cat looked like it was about to spit its organs out, the genins and Jonin were getting underpaid for their mission. Hey. Team 7 were walking through the busy streets of Konoha. It was a few months since they've became genin and they were taking a new mission. They arrived at their client's big house, who had a butler to greet them and maids running around. Do we seriously need to move everything in this house? Mito complained. Yep, Kakashi said tiredly. Sasuke sighs as they take a look at the castle-like house. The rich family walked up to them and greeted them and told them what they needed to do before leaving the house to do whatever rich people do in their free time. Just as they were about to start moving one of the mini couches, Naruto suddenly got up and walked out of the giant house. Where's he going? Sasuke asked. I don't know. Of course you wouldn't, Dobi. Shut up, team. I'll go check on him, the dog summoner said. He left and sensed an Anbu hiding in the corner of the house and waited for Naruto to be done with his conversation. He watched as the mysterious Anbu he assumed to be from Root handed him a scroll. Naruto took it and put it in his weapon pouch while the Root Anbu flickered away. Kakashi-sensei, I have a mission, the Jinchuriki said in a monotone. He nodded and watched the boy disappear in thin air like the other Anbu did. Kakashi went back into the house and explained that Naruto had to leave. Why does Naruto get to skip missions? Mito whines, wondering why Naruto sometimes doesn't show up on their missions. Yeah, why does Naruto disappear for a few days and come back like nothing's happened? Sasuke also asks. I can't tell you why at the moment. You'll need to find out yourselves if you want the answer, their sensei sighed. Why not? She pries. It's confidential, he answers seriously. Mito stops and huffs before continuing to move the couch with Sasuke. A few hours later, a blonde boy came back into the house slightly out of breath. Naruto, Mito shouts out. The said boy tilts his head to the side, silently asking what she wanted. Where were you? Somewhere. What do you mean, somewhere? He shrugs before the Kunoichi says, we could have finished this faster if you were here. Sasuke agrees with a grunt while Naruto helps them pick up a table. They took the table out of the house and put it on a trolley that'll be moved to their employer's new house. The team, not including Kakashi, who was reading his Ika Paradise the whole time, continued this for the rest of the day. When they finished their exhausting job at 9 p.m., they were dismissed and immediately went back to their homes to get some rest. Naruto went to his sensei's office to report his mission. After completing his route mission, he went back to his team, deciding that he'll report his mission to Danzo later. Report, he ordered. Naruto obeyed and began explaining how his mission went in detail. He included what jutsus he used and how he used them to attack his opponent and how he hid and ambushed the target. After his report, he took out a scroll and gave it to Danzo, who unsealed it. Inside the scroll was the head of the target and the merchandise he stole. There were lots of gold and jewels made into necklaces and bracelets and other stuff you'd find in a museum. Danzo nodded and allowed the boy to go back to his room so he can rest for the night. Hey. A year later, the genin, who now were all 13 years old, continued their D-ranked missions, and day by day, the genin were getting more tired of it. Naruto and his team stood in front of their cage, waiting for him to assign them their mission. You options are to help walk the Inuzuka's dogs, play with the kids at the orphanage, catch Tora. The team shuddered at the thought of catching the demon cat once again as the old Hawkage continued his long list of D-rank missions. Mito, not wanting to do another D-ranked mission, interrupted loudly, "Old man, can we do a higher-ranked mission, please?" He paused and touched his chin in a thinking manner, then he looked at Kakashi and asked, "What do you think?" I think we're ready for a simple C-rank, Hawkage-sama." "All right," he said, "bring the bridge builder." The hidden Anbus flickered out of the room, and a knock was heard right after. "Come in." The bridge builder drunkenly walked in as the Anbus occasionally pulled him back so he wouldn't fall on the ground. "I'm the great bridge builder Tazuna," he exclaimed confidently. He looked around the room after not hearing any cheers or claps and disappointingly slurred, "Wah, what would those genin protect me from? They all look weak, especially the red-haired one." "Hey," she shouted. Kakashi held Mito by the back of her shirt so she wouldn't pounce at the client and said, "Tazuna-san, don't worry, we're all capable to protect you." He huffed and asked, "How am I supposed to believe you? You have me, an elite jonin, and one of our genin who is extremely strong." The overconfident Sasuke smirked, thinking his sensei was talking about him when he's actually talking about his more non-sociable genin. "Fine." The Hawkage smiled and said, "Your mission is to safely bring him back to the Land of Waves and protect him from any danger." Land of Waves 1, the Demon Brother. The sounds of footsteps were heard clearly in the silent forest as Team 7 were following their client, Tazuna, to the Land of Waves. They've been walking for several hours, and the genin were getting bored and were dying for action. The team walked past a puddle, and while Kakashi's two genin thought nothing of it, he and his other student thought, "It hasn't rained in days, it's a genjutsu." Just as they walked past a puddle, two shinobi leaped out, scaring the genin. One of the shinobis pulled out a chain and wrapped it on Kakashi's body, and when he pulled, it squashed Kakashi to death. "Sensei," Mito shouted in shock. "One down, 3 to go," one of their two attackers said. The shinobi ran towards a distracted Mito who moved to protect Tazuna and was ready to slice her head off until Sasuke jumped in front of her, ready to take the attack. The unknown shinobi didn't care and was too focused on killing the two genin that he didn't notice the third member on their team sneak behind him. Naruto took a kunai out of his weapon pouch and jabbed it onto the man's throat, who spat blood out and fell on the ground. Gazu, the shinobi that killed Kakashi, screamed. Naruto's teammates looked horrified at the sight of blood and how Naruto was able to kill Gazu without a second thought. So they're the demon brothers, Naruto thought. Gazu's brother growled and shouted angrily, "I'll kill you." He ran towards Naruto, who killed his brother and clumsily tried to stab him. It didn't matter where he managed to stab Naruto, all he wanted was to avenge his brother, Gazu. Although Mizu tried his best to avenge his brother, he wasn't nearly as strong as Naruto, who had enough and tried to end it by using a substitution to confuse the demon brother. A second after he substituted, the confused Mizu looked around, trying to find Naruto. Naruto, who was hiding on a tree branch, launched himself and was about to kill Mizu the same way he did with his brother when a hand grabbed him, stopping his attempt. "Naruto, stop!" Kakashi interfered. Naruto stopped, his kunai an inch away from Mizu's neck. Mizu, feeling way less confident without his brother, turned around slowly. While shaking, he said, "I'll come back and kill you, I swear." Once his brother was gone, he felt weak but also angry. Weak because without Gazu, they are no longer the feared demon brothers, and angry because a mere genin killed his beloved brother. He was about to run off until Kakashi let go of Naruto and took hold of Mizu. Mizu, who was still in shock, didn't give Kakashi much of a challenge, so he easily tied him up. Kakashi looked over to his two wide-eyed students and said in a soft tone, "You'll see more of this when you climb higher in the ranks. Eventually, you'll be the one doing this." Sasuke nodded and turned back into his normal self since he has already seen death, but Mito, on the other hand, turned angry. Why do we need to kill each other?" "To survive," Kakashi said, "it's kill or be killed in the shinobi world." Mito grunted, still not liking the idea of one day killing another human being. Turning to his blonde student, Kakashi ordered, "Naruto, you shouldn't kill people so easily." Why not? His clueless student asks. Well, he trailed off, not sure on how to state his point. Is it because I'm supposed to interrogate them first? No. Kakashi left Naruto's unanswered question unanswered and looked over at Mizu. Who's your target? He asks. Tazuna, Mizu answers immediately. Who hired you? Who hired you? He repeated. Gato. Kakashi nodded and began asking Tazuna some questions. This is a C-rank mission. Why are there shinobi attacking us? Well, you see, he trailed off. Yes, Kakashi asks, getting irritated. This isn't a C-rank mission. It clearly isn't. My country, the land of waves, is so poor from Gato's high taxes he gives us that we don't have enough money to pay for a higher rank mission. He sulked. It's fine if you want to abandon this mission, though. My daughter will just hate Konoha for the rest of her life, and my cute little grandson will cry and wonder where his old man went. The Jonin sighed at their client's attempt at guilt-tripping them and asked his genin, do you want to continue this mission? Without hesitation, Mito looked at her sensei and said, forgetting the slight nervousness she felt earlier, yes, I don't know about this Gato guy, but it sounds like he's a bitch. Sasuke HN'd in agreement and Naruto simply nodded, keeping his poker face during the whole conversation. I guess we're continuing this mission, the sensei said lazily to the relieved-looking client. But first, what do we do with him? Kakashi said, pointing at Mizu. We could leave him here, Mito suggested. True, Kakashi hummed before making sure Mizu had no weapons on him and tying him against a tree. Wait, you can't leave me. Honestly, I would rather kill him because he could be a threat, Kakashi thought. Then an idea popped in his head. I don't want to do this, but it's better than a possible threat to my genin. Naruto, he said while everyone else was distracted. Naruto's head tilted slightly. He sighed before saying, when we continue walking, I want you to kill Mizu without anyone noticing. He nodded. When they were done, they left, ignoring Mizu's helpless calls for help, which soon turned into anger, and he began telling Naruto that he'll kill him once again. Are you sure we should leave him there? Mito asks. Yes, Kakashi said to mask his true intentions. While Mito was busy worrying about Mizu, Naruto sneakily made a shadow clone and substituted it with himself. He hid his chakra and traced back his steps to Mizu, who was trying to escape. Naruto went behind Mizu unknowingly and his hand clasped his mouth tightly. Muffled screams was heard right after as his hands moved to his weapon pouch. He took out a kunai and the next thing he knew, Mizu was dead. Hey Tazuna, are there any shinobi in the land of waves? Mito asks out of boredom. Of course not, Dobi, Sasuke says. I wasn't asking you, team, she snaps. Tazuna's sweat dropped as he saw the two genin start to fight and glare at each other. Calm down, you two, Kakashi said to try to break up their pointless argument. Fuck no, the team started it, she huffed. HN. The worn-out sensei sighed and replied, it doesn't matter. It does, she pouted. You're acting like a 5-year-old, the raven pointed out. Am not, she folded her arms before Sasuke gave her a short glance that says, are you serious? Mito, who was probably going to explode and yell at him for giving her that glance, stopped her idea when she heard a rustle coming from some nearby bushes. Wanting to show off her skills, Mito took out a kunai and threw it where the noise was coming from. There was another rustle was heard, and a white bunny leaped out. Awa, it's so cute, she complimented. I didn't mean to throw a kunai at you, sorry. She went to the bunny to pet it, but it ran away in fright. Wait, why is there a white bunny in the winter? The sensei thought before realizing what situation he and his team were now in. Get down. Land of Waves 2, who is this kid? Get down. His genin ducked while Kakashi tackled Tazuna onto the ground just in time so the large sword wouldn't chop his head off. The sword flung itself onto a tree behind Team 7 and the bridge builder. Tazuna got up shakily while Sasuke and Mito's eyes widened. The air turned cold and was filled with bloodlust that would frighten any non-experienced shinobi, and at the same time, an obnoxious Naruto wondered why his teammates had the look of shock in their eyes and why the atmosphere suddenly got thicker. Then he noticed Kakashi standing up cautiously and motioning for him to come to him. Naruto, he whispered, I'm going to fight Zabuza. If I get trapped, try to free me, but if I get killed, protect your teammates and run as far as you can." Just before Kakashi turned away, Naruto informed, "Kakashi-sensei, there is a shinobi in the bushes behind Zabuza. What do you want me to do?" His eyes widened slightly because he didn't notice the shinobi, and to not give anything away, he said, "Pretend not to notice the person. If the person shows themselves, do not attack and wait for my command." Kakashi says strictly at his last sentence. "Yes, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto responded similarly to the way he'd respond to Danzo. While this was happening, Zabuza's body flickered to his massive sword and turned around to face him. Noticing this, Kakashi said threateningly, "Zabuza Mamachi." Under his bandaged face, much like Kakashi's, you could see a smirk making an appearance. "Hade Kakashi, what a pleasure to meet you." He turned to him and sent a glare at the demon of the hidden mist that would send any normal shinobi shaking. Zabuza's smirk grew wider, showing how uninfected he was from Kakashi's death glare as he created several water clones and made them to surround his genins. Kakashi attacked first. He ran to the S-ranked shinobi with full force and attempted to punch him. Zabuza dodged it swiftly and used his hand to grab Kakashi's leg to make him unbalanced. They continued their fight with Zabuza slowly winning. The Jonin decided that it was enough and lifted his headband, revealing a 3-tomo Sharingan. A gasp was heard by the Uchiha when he saw the feared red eye with 3 tomos surrounding the pupil owned by the Uchiha clan. "How does Kakashi-sensei have a Sharingan?" he asked himself in confusion and a slight bit of anger. Just when he snapped out of his daze, he saw Kakashi trapped in water shaped into a ball and Naruto running towards the enemy. The demon of the hidden mist's ego got the better of him, so he underestimated the young blonde who was going for a frontal attack. At least that was what he thought until the clone proofed away. A shadow clone, how did he even learn that? He frantically searched his surroundings and was surprised when he didn't sense anything. "Who is this kid? How is a genin able to hide from me?" he stressed. Seconds later, a fast flash appeared in the corner of his eye, and before he can spin around to see, his left hand that was keeping Kakashi in his water prison jutsu was pierced by a kunai. He hissed in pain as his jutsu undid itself, and Kakashi ran to his genin team. Naruto took Zabuza's distracted self as a chance to attack, so he took a scroll out of his pocket and unsealed it. A sword appeared and Naruto took hold of it and was about to slice the man's stomach when 2 senbon interfered. The senbon struck at the side of Zabuza's neck without a sound, and a mist ambush showed himself. Kakashi took out a kunai and was ready to use it until the shinobi said, "Thank you for weakening him. I'm a mist hunter nin and I've been trailing him for quite a while now." "Ah, sorry about that," the sensei said before putting back his kunai. The shinobi continued by saying, "I need to dispose his body, so please excuse me." He nodded and the Anbu body flickered away. Kakashi was about to continue their journey to the land of waves with his team and client when he felt a pair of lifeless eyes wanting to tell him something. "Yes, Naruto." Hunter nins dispose their target's body straight away. Kakashi turned dumbfounded in a matter of seconds, and the rest of the team noticed this and asked what happened at him. In response, he said, "Nothing, it's nothing." "Hey, Tsunami Inari, I'm home," Tazuna shouted. Hurried footsteps were heard before the door that belonged to Tazuna's house flung open. Inside stood a black-haired and eyed girl and a little boy wearing a bucket hat behind her. "Dad," Tsunami said happily while the boy's eyes brightened for a split second. "This is Tsunami, my daughter," Tazuna introduced, "and this is my grandson Inari." "Hello, I'm Tsunami. Thank you for protecting my dad," she said. Tsunami looked over her shoulder and urged him to thank the Shinobis. The boy's annoyed eyes turned into a glare, and he stormed off angrily. "Inari," she yelled as an attempt to make him come back. "Sorry about him," she sighed. "No worries," he smiled. "I'm Hade Kakashi. This is Sasuke." He points to the unimpressed Uchiha. Mito, his hand moved to the girl who waved and smiled before going to the expressionless blonde while saying, "And this is Naruto." "Nice to meet you," she says. "It's nice to meet you too," Mito exclaims while Sasuke and Naruto nodded. "I'll show you to your rooms, please follow me." She left the front door and led them upstairs. They walked past a short corridor and stopped in front of an empty room. There are futons in the cabinet. I'll help you get them. The team put their bags on the ground and helped Tsunami carry the futons and set them up. When they were done, they thanked her and Tsunami left. Mito, Sasuke, Naruto, Kakashi called out, Zabuza is alive. Seriously, how? Mito says in shock while hers and Sasuke's eyes widened. The senbon the hunter nin used pierced the point of the neck where it temporarily puts the victim to sleep. We have about a week before Zabuza is fully healed, so we need to train until then. His genin nodded in response, unsure on what to think since Zabuza is alive. Land of Waves 3. 2 kunais were jabbed into the ground in front of Kakashi's genins. You'll learn how to climb trees, Kakashi says. Climb trees, we already know how to do that, Mito said. But without hands. That's not possible. Her sensei took a kunai and slowly walked to a tree and proved her wrong by walking on it only with his feet. To do this, you need to focus your chakra on the soles of your feet while making sure you don't put too little or too much. During Mito's astonishment, Sasuke asked, why doesn't Naruto get a kunai? Oh, he already knows how to tree walk. Show me, Sasuke said slightly jealously because to his sensei's eyes, Naruto is stronger than him. Kakashi agreed and looked at Naruto, who walked up the same tree as Kakashi successfully. Now you try, he says lazily. His 2 genins raced up separate trees at full speed, while Kakashi and his other genin jumped off the tree they were on to observe them by the sensei reading his orange book that went with him everywhere and Naruto staring blankly at the forest rather than his teammates. When their first foot stepped on the tree, a small and harmless explosion happened and the 2 fell back on the ground. They didn't waste any time and they ran up the tree but unfortunately failed again. They continued this until the evening where Mito and Sasuke started an unspoken competition on who can learn tree climbing the fastest. Hey. Sasuke and Mito stood behind the front door covered in sweat but accomplished and happily sat at the table telling their sensei that they completed the tree climbing exercise. Good job, Kakashi praised with a nice smile. They patiently waited for Tsunami to come out of the kitchen with food when her kid, Inari, appeared. He looked mad when he sat down at his chair but no one questioned him since Tsunami came right after with food which distracted the hungry team. Thank you for the food, everyone said in unison. They began eating the delicious food with Mito and Sasuke swallowing it down like they were starving children. Then, just like before, they turned it into a competition with them gulping it down quickly and asking for more in seconds. Can I please have another bowl? The 2 rivals said. Sure, take as much as you like. Does everything have to be a competition? Kakashi sighed. They enjoyed their meal, creating a lively and happy-go-lucky atmosphere while not noticing Inari's built-up frustration until his pair of hands slammed on the table. Why do you all keep trying? He said with anger radiating off of him. When everyone's attention was on him, Inari continued venting. You'll never be a hero because all heroes die. I bet you've never felt pain. You've never lived in fear because of Gato but instead live in a village protected by shinobis. You have a loving family to go to, you. He was cut off by Mito who slammed her hands just as loud as Inari did and shouted, shut up and stop playing victim. At least you have a family, none of us do, not anymore. The whole room went quiet. After Mito's response to Inari's outburst, he stormed upstairs back into his room with tears flowing in his eyes. Tsunami sighed at her son's sudden attitude and began apologizing to the team. While this was happening, Naruto was confused at the obvious emotions displayed by Inari and Mito, but only decided to ask his sensei about it when everyone left to their rooms. Kakashi chuckled at his question but answered nonetheless. Well, to put it simply, Inari was mad at us. What does the word mad mean? The sensei went dumbfounded at that question but quickly remembered that Naruto was raised in root, which made him curse at Danzo and his inhuman ways to train a shinobi. Mad is when someone has an unpleasant feeling they want to get rid of by either shouting or sometimes violence, he tried to explain. Oh, Naruto said before remembering something in his past, something his leader wouldn't approve of. He remembered him with a pale and black-haired boy around his age talking, or rather complaining, about something. Flashback no jutsu. Hey, a young-looking Naruto called his friend's name. Him, the forgotten boy Naruto was remembering, replied. When do you think we get to start real training? Real training, what do you mean by that? You know, something like fighting, Naruto excitedly says. I don't know, but I hope it's soon. Same, sitting in classrooms all day is so boring, right? Yeah, I'd rather run around. The door which lead to their shared room opened, and an Anbu came in. Naruto, let's go. The two obeyed and followed their sensei to the same classroom they went in every day. Hey. Naruto, who was practically falling asleep, was woken by a question he didn't listen to. Can you say that again, please? Naruto sheepishly asked. If an enemy catches you and threatens to kill if you don't give him information, what information would you tell him? Ooh, the least important ones. No, you tell him nothing, he robotically said. The root Anbu continued his lesson, but soon Naruto got bored and whispered to, I'm bored. When class is over, wanna sneak out of our room and hang out. Flashback no jutsu kai. Naruto, Kakashi's concerned voice rang in Naruto's ears. His head jolted up and tears began running down his face. Sai, Naruto mumbled. Sai, Kakashi asked, confused. Sensei, why is it hurting here? He pointed to his chest, more specifically his heart. It hurts there because you're sad, that's also why you're crying, Kakashi said in a caring tone, ignoring that he's still confused on who Sai was. He nodded and began telling him about his sudden flashback and the boy he'd just remembered. When he was done, Kakashi was shocked to see this side of Naruto he never knew existed, which led him to make a promise to himself. Naruto, I promise to help you regain your emotions and free you from that scum, Danzo. His determined self helped Naruto calm himself down and led his sensei's son back to their room to rest for the night. Land of Waves 4, an unknown change. Naruto, Sasuke and Kakashi woke up around the same time, which was early in the morning, to get ready for their fight with Zabuza. The awake Genin in Team 7 noticed that their only female teammate was still asleep and looked at their sensei to silently ask if they should wake her up. Kakashi-sensei shook his head as a no and quietly explained to them that Mito should get some rest because she was probably tired from training. They went downstairs, leaving Mito and her almost silent snores to herself, and met up with Tazuna at the front door. Are you sure you can protect me from Zabuza? Tazuna asks worryingly. Yes, I'll even give up my life if I have to, Kakashi reassured the bridge builder. Tazuna gave a small nod, still not convinced at Kakashi's words but still left to complete the unnamed bridge. When they arrived, they came to see everyone working on the bride slaughtered. Blood stained the nearly completed bridge's floor with bodies scattered around. Tazuna ran to one of the injured people that was in their own puddle of blood and shouted out their name. The man's eyes opened slightly and barely managed to say their attacker's name before he went unconscious. Right after he spoke, mist covered the bridge and Team 7 went into their defensive stance with Kakashi revealing his Sharingan yet again. A small chuckle was heard and the mist cleared itself slightly to see Zabuza and the hunter Nin. The senseis gave death glares to each other until the swordsman decided to speak through his bandaged mouth. Showing your Sharingan already, Zabuza jokingly mocks. The copy ninja grunted and said, no one's seen my Sharingan twice and lived. Then I'll be the first, he confidently smirked. Zabuza's smirk grew wider and he eyed Kakashi, challenging him to make the first move. Kakashi accepted his challenge and ran at Zabuza with an empty hand to punch him. Zabuza dodged his fast and powerful punch by moving his head to the side and curled his right fist into a ball to punch his stomach. Kakashi, however, saw this coming and poofed away when Zabuza's fist smashed into Kakashi's stomach. A clone, Zabuza thought before looking around the bridge to find the original Kakashi. Kakashi, who body flickered behind Zabuza, created a Chidori and was going to jab it through Zabuza's back when his instincts told him to dodge. Zabuza took hold of his sword and swung it right after Kakashi dodged with his Chidori, going to strike at the swordsman's stomach when he jumped back. While the S-rank Shinobis fight to the death, Zabuza's student Haku started his own fight with the Uchiha. Ice mirrors formed around Sasuke, creating an ice dome. He looked around to find an exit, but there was none. The masked shinobi went into one of the mirrors and the rest of the mirrors reflected him, making him undetectable. Haku took 3 senbon in each of his hands, and after throwing them, Haku went through every mirror while continuously throwing more of his senbons at Sasuke. Naruto, Kakashi managed to say in his intense fight, "Help Sasuke get out of that ice dome." He nodded and immediately tried some of his fire jutsus on Haku's ice mirrors, but instead of melting, there was no reaction. So fire jutsus won't work, Naruto analyzed. Hey. Mito sat up from her futon tiredly and rubbed her eyes. She looked around the suspiciously quiet room and her eyes widened. They left without me, she thought. Then a loud sudden bang rang through her ears. She got up and ran down the stairs where she heard the loud noise. Mito stopped behind the front door and saw Tsunami being held hostage and Inari was getting chalked. She created a clone and walked through the door. The bandits noticed her and one of them said, "Another one." She spoke to Inari, ignoring the bandits in front her. Heroes always show up last minute. Then she made a cross sign her 2 finders and shouted, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." A figure which looked identical to Mito appeared in a cloud of smoke. "Why do you look scared? It's just a kid," one of the bandits said to the other. "I'm not a kid," Mito's clone glared before attacking the bandits. One of the Mitos started to run towards them, and because they underestimated her, they didn't move but drew their swords instead. With one struck, they easily sliced her in half. "That was easy, that brat was too cocky," he mocked without realizing they just fell for her trap. The original Mito used the smoke made by her clones dispelling as a smoke bomb and jumped through it, surprising the bandits. At the end, she successfully captured them by tying them up. "You bastard," one of the captured men said angrily. Mito chuckled in response and turned to Inari and Tsunami. "Are you guys okay?" Tsunami nodded gratefully and Inari, for the first time Mito has seen, smiled. "Where are the others?" "They left a while ago." "Without me," she screamed. She sheepishly chuckled and said yes to her question. "Hey." Mito was panting by the time she arrived to the bridge. She was about to shout at her team for leaving her behind when she saw her teammate, Sasuke, stuck in a dome made out of ice with Naruto outside of it while trying to block as much senbons from hitting Sasuke as he can with kunais and shurikens, and her sensei fighting Zabuza. "Sasuke," she shouted. Mito ran to Naruto, who had an unworried face on him, and asked, "What happened?" "The enemy used his Kekkei Genkai on Sasuke while Kakashi was distracted with fighting Zabuza," Naruto reported. "Do you know any fire jutsus?" she panicked. "I do, but they don't work on the ice mirrors." "Then what should we do?" Naruto then thought about the situation. He can barely protect Sasuke from the outside, but if he goes inside, he would also get stuck unless he manages to kill the enemy and force the jutsu to stop. Naruto knew the second option was much more harder to do because the Rouge Nin goes through the mirrors so quickly that even Naruto would find it hard to catch her, so the first option was more reasonable, but something kept him from doing so. "What's going on with me?" he thought before saying, "We're going inside." "What, wouldn't we get trapped like Sasuke?" He nodded and jumped in the dome just in time to block multiple senbons from Sasuke's back. "What's happening with me? Why am I doing this?" he asked himself as the harmless injuries began healing himself. Land of Waves 5 back in Konoha. It's been a while since the battle started and Zabuza was slowly beating Kakashi. "You're not done yet, right, Kakashi?" Zabuza smirked, hiding his exhaustion as best as he can. Kakashi was going to reply to Zabuza's idiotic question when he heard a scream that made his bloodlust grow. "Sasuke!" Mito cried as Sasuke fell on the floor lifelessly. Hearing this, the Jonin sensei regained his energy for a split second and created a Chidori and plunged it into Zabuza's heart when a masked shinobi blocked it with himself. The mask slipped off of the person's face. Kakashi's eyes widened, the man's mouth poured out blood and his eyes dulled. "Haku!" a surprised voice cried. Flashback no jutsu. Haku was on his way to collect some herbs for his sensei when he noticed a girl sleeping on the grass peacefully. "Isn't that?" He began to think where he'd recognized her when it dawned on him. "She's from the team that attacked Zabuza-sama." He walked over to the unprotected girl and placed his hand on her. "Where am I?" Mito asked tiredly while sitting up. She looked around and saw a long-haired person with black eyes looking at her. Who are you? I'm Haku, he introduced with a smile. I'm Maido. Why were you sleeping here? Oh, I was training and I guess I fell asleep, she answered sheepishly. Training for what? To become stronger. I need to be stronger to become the Hokage after all. What's a Hokage? The Hokage is the leader in my village. There was silence before Haku changed the subject. Do you have anyone important to you? Of course, there's Uroka-sensei and my team. My teammates are sometimes annoying though. They are why? My sensei is always late. One of my teammates is an emo team and well, my other teammate is alright I guess. He's just very expressionless and hard to talk to. Maido vents. Do you have anyone important to you? I do. My sensei took me in and trained me. The two smiled at each other. Haku got up and said, sorry, I need to go now. That's alright, it was nice talking to you. It was nice talking to you too. He turned around and started walking back where he came from, and on his way, he surprised Maido by saying, just so you know, I'm a guy. What? Yeah. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. Kakashi pulled his hand away from Haku's chest and watched as he slumped down on the ground. Once Zabuza realized this, he raged at Kakashi and used more of his already drained chakra into adding more mist. Kakashi hid his Sharingan with his headband to save his chakra and attacked. While they fought, they were slowly draining each other's energy, and before they knew it, they were about to collapse. Only until then, Gato decided to show up. He walked on the bridge smugly while slowly clapping his hands. Then, he betrayed Zabuza by ordering his thugs to attack the already beaten-up Shinobis. War cries were heard as they ran towards the Shinobis. Naruto sprung into action and unsealed his sword, which was used to slaughter them. Though Zabuza was on the edge of collapsing, he couldn't let some brat take all the glory of killing Gato, so he took out a kunai instead of his sword, which was too heavy for him to hold, and joined him in a massacre. Kakashi decided not to join them since Zabuza was still a potential enemy, so he instead made a couple shadow clones to intimidate the new enemies. It worked along with the killing spree, which led to Gato begging for his life as the last man was killed in front of him. Spare me, please, he begged. I'll give you anything, money, woman. Naruto, who was covered in blood of anything but his own, ignored him and raised his sword, aiming to kill. Just before he swung it, he looked over at Kakashi, remembering his order of killing only with permission. Kakashi met his gaze and shook his head. Without a second thought, Naruto sealed back his sword and stepped back to let Kakashi take command. Give Wave all their money back, including ownership to your shipping company. When you finish that, leave Wave and never return, he says fiercely. Yes, of course, he said, relieved. Hey. What? The old Hokage shouted unprofessionally as their most valuable rookie team finished their report. So you're telling me that this C-rank mission turned into an A-rank and you, Kakashi, decided to continue it, he said after calming down a bit. Yeah, he slouched. You could have at least sent a message so I could send backup, he glared. Yes, but I'm sure we could deal with an A-rank. Hiruzen sighed and sent them out. He was too tired to deal with this and decided to give Kakashi his punishment at another time. Meanwhile, Kalashi dismissed his team, who left in a hurry, which made him question his lessons on teamwork being wasted when he noticed that he forgot to ask his blonde genin something. The blonde genin left in a body flicker and was heading to Root's base when his white-haired sensei stopped him in his tracks. Naruto, Kakashi said cheerfully. In response, Naruto tilted his head and he continued, do you want to get ramen with me? Sorry, I have to go somewhere right now. You mean the Root base? Naruto took a fighting stance and secretly took out a kunai when Kakashi reassured, Hokage-sama told me of your position when you became genin, don't worry. Seeing that Naruto didn't move nor put his kunai away, Kakashi said, you'll be gone for an hour or so, it won't be that bad. Naruto put his weapon back and walked to Kakashi still warily as a yes, and they headed to Irakaraku's. Hey. Danzo sat on his chair, patiently waiting for Naruto's already late report on his most recent mission. More minutes passed and the Hokage's rival was getting more and more impatient. Monkey, he called to the hidden shinobi. Danzo-sama, he flashed into a kneeling position in front of him. Find Kitsune and report what he's doing. Yes. Monkey left as soon as he was dismissed and left the secret base in seconds. They leaped from rooftop to rooftop without a single sound and quickly found his target walking with the copycat ninja. He saw the two walk into a ramen stand called Irakairaku, which had a welcoming and carefree aura surrounding it, and he watched as they, who was just Kakashi, ordered. Chapter 8 Ramen. Can I have a miso ramen please? Kakashi said to the restaurant owner Tuchai. Of course, he smiled. And you? Naruto never tried ramen before, so all the different toppings and broth confused him. He looked at Kakashi and wordlessly asked him to choose for him. Kakashi understood his message and asked for him. He wants a miso ramen too. All right, he said and went to the kitchen to prepare their food. Moments later, Tuchai served them their miso ramen. Naruto split his chopsticks and cautiously tried his first ramen as if it was poisoned or drugged. When he gulped down his food, a small smile crept onto his face. Do you like it? Kakashi asked, already knowing his answer. Naruto nodded with a smile still on his whiskered face and said with a hint of emotion for the first time in ages, "It's warm." Kakashi nodded back and celebrated in his mind. He smiled. I was worried that he wouldn't like it, but since Mito and Kushina were practically obsessed with it, it would make sense that Naruto likes it. The Anbu with the code name Money watched over the sensei and his student peacefully eating with Naruto, ordering ramen after ramen. Soon after, Kakashi paid the expensive bill made out of his one order of ramen and Naruto's many more, and let him go back to his original destination. Naruto flickered away after thanking his sensei and quickly made his way back to the Anbu base. Monkey also flashed away once he saw them going the opposite direction. Hey. Danzo nodded at Naruto's report on his latest mission and didn't question why he was late, since he would get a report on that later. He dismissed the Jinchuriki, who went back to his room like always and waited for Monkey. Right after his office door closed, the Anbu he was expecting knelt in front of him. Report, Danzo demands. Yes, the copy ninja offered to go out and get ramen with Kitsune. He continued his detailed report, with Danzo listening carefully to see if letting Naruto into the light was a mistake. His Anbu kept going until one sentence caught his attention. Kitsune tried the ramen and said it's warm, while smiling. The copy ninja seemed pleased with his answer, and after he was done, Danzo dismissed him with anger mixed into his normal flat voice. So he smiled. Danzo was in deep thought. Maybe I shouldn't have accepted Hiruzen's deal. Hey. Where's Naruto? Mito asks Kakashi, who arrived in a puff of smoke. He's not coming today, he sighed. Again, Sasuke said. Yes, Kakashi sighed again. Why can Naruto skip out on these boring D-ranks, but we can't? Sorry, but I can't say. He waved the question off. After he took Naruto out for ramen, which was 2 months ago, he noticed that Naruto participated less in their missions. Naruto wouldn't skip out on missions, and it wasn't like he can, so he immediately knew Danzo was at fault. What is Danzo planning? He thought to himself as he took out 2 pieces of paper. Anyways, I've signed you up for the Chunin exams, I smiled. Chunin exams. It's an event where you compete to become Chunin. People from other villages, including Kages and Daimyos, come to see it too. You have a month to decide, and you don't have to compete. There's always next time after all. Mito's eyes glowed with excitement as she grabbed the form and said, I'll compete. Sasuke took his with his suppressed excitement and gave his answer, me too. Kakashi eyes smiled at his cute little Genin's excitement. Will Naruto join too? Mito asks. Maybe, Kakashi wondered. Well, I'm going to ask Naruto now, see you. And Kakashi disappeared. He stealthily went to the direction of the root base. He made sure no one followed him as he did, or else he'd be killed by either the root members or Danzo himself. The only reason why he knew where the base was is from his past. Years ago, he and Hokage-sama broke in to save Tenzo from Danzo's cursed seal and recruit him for the Black Ops. He smiled at the memory. He hasn't seen Tenzo in a while, so he figured that he'll go find him when he gets the time. The next thing he knew, he was in front of the sketchy door with signs that say, "Do not enter," scattered around. Once he stepped inside, 2 ambus flashed in front of him, ready to attack. I'm Hade Kakashi, Naruto's sensei, he stated. I'm here to give Naruto the Chunin exam form. The Anbu on the left body flickered away to what Kakashi thought was Danzo. Moments later, he came back and said coldly, "Follow us." Kakashi nodded and followed them through the dark and cold corridors. One Anbu was leading him and the other was behind him, and it stayed like that until they reached one of the rooms. The root Anbu leading him opened the door and said to the boy writing a report, "Kitsune, Hadake-san is here to speak to you." Naruto turned to his sensei and got up from his chair. The Ambus closed the door behind him, leaving the two. Kakashi took out a form saying, "This is for the Chunin exams. You have a month to decide, so take your time choosing." He smiled. "I'll participate if Danzo-sama allows," he said dully. "Do you want to though?" He pondered on his question for a while until asking, "Will Sasuke and Mito be participating?" They agreed right away. "Then I want to." He smiled and said, "Glad to hear that." They stood in silence before Kakashi suddenly said, "I gotta go now, see you at the Chunin exams." Naruto nodded as he watched Kakashi leave his room. When the door closed, he picked back up his pen and continued his report. A few hours later, he almost finished his report when an Anbu opened his door. "All Anbus are to go to Danzo." He nodded and went with him and some other Anbus to the largest room in the base where Danzo wanted them to go to. When they arrived, they stood in attention to their leader, who was standing on a platform with his normal stern gaze. As the last couple Anbus arrived, Danzo reeked of power and authority as he spoke. "You have all been assigned an important mission. You are not allowed to speak about it no matter what, and if you fail to complete your part in it, you'll get killed," he ordered firmly. "Do you understand?" "Yes," the Anbus said in unison. Danzo nodded. "In this mission, Chunin Exams 1 close call." Naruto and his team were walking together after what felt like ages. It had been a month since they took any missions since Kakashi wanted to train them for the Chunin exams. He trained Mito and Sasuke while Naruto was nowhere to be found. His teammates kept asking where he was, but Kakashi also had no idea. He tried to visit the root Anbu base to find him, but he was denied entry every time. Naruto, Sasuke and Mito turned their last corner to the Shinobi Academy when they saw a foreign shinobi holding the Hokage's grandson, Konoha, by the neck. "You should apologize for bumping into me, brat," the shinobi with face paintings said. "We'll get in trouble with Gaara," said his teammate. "Konoha," Mito shouts, seeming to know the boy personally. "Let him go." "Who are you?" "Uzumaki Mito, the future Hokage." He scoffed, tightening his grip on Konoha, whose eyes went wide. "You do know he's the Hokage's grandson, right?" Sasuke said. "If you kill him, you could start another war." "Like I care." Kankuro, a rough voice said from the tree above, which made everyone present shiver. "Gaara," Kankuro nervously stutters. "You're embarrassing us, let him go." "Okay," he blurted out before dropping the kid on the ground, who ran to Mito and clutched her dress. Gaara stared them down, creating an awkward but tense atmosphere until he asks, "What's your name?" "Uzumaki Naruto," Naruto said in the same tone as Gaara. "What's yours?" "Sabaku no Gaara." They stared at each other with their colorless eyes, with Naruto feeling Gaara's overgrowing hatred for him. "Let's go," Gaara signals to his team, who followed obediently. "Hey." Sasuke and Mito felt nostalgic as they walked down the Shinobi Academy's hallways to room 301, where they were told to go. As they walked, they noticed a crowd surrounded two genins. "Let us in," someone from the crowd shouts. More complaints could be heard as they tried to push through the two. "There's no way you can pass this test. We're just saving you time, so leave," one genin who was blocking the entrance said over the loud screams. "Isn't this the room 201? Sasuke asks to his teammates. "Yes, it is," Naruto confirms. "It's probably a genjutsu," says Mito. They were about to turn away from the large group and quietly go upstairs when a loud voice, louder than any person there, shouted at the top of their lungs. "Hey you," he points to the blonde in Team 7. "You're the rookie of the year, right?" Naruto nods while Sasuke grunts jealousy. The boy who successfully grabbed his and everyone else's attention continued, "I'm Rock Lee." Uzumaki Naruto. Please spar with me. No, he said with a bit of annoyance on how loud he was while Sasuke grunted jealously. Please, he kept asking. Soon enough, Naruto got more annoyed and agreed to make him quiet. Lee screamed on how youthful he was, which Team 7 found strange, and went to an empty room downstairs where no one was. On the way, Akanoichi and Hyuga, which they assumed was Lee's team members, came up to them. Lee, where were you? The girl said. I was asking Naruto to spar with me, he pointed to Naruto. She sighs and says, we're going to be late. It'll be quick. If fine. When they arrived, Lee took his stance confidentiality and they began. Once they began, it became clear who was stronger, with Naruto blocking Lee's every attack and countering them. He jumped back to create some space between him and Naruto, but while he was in the air, Naruto flickered underneath him and jumped to grab his arm and force him down with his weight. The floor cracked as the two landed, with Naruto holding Lee's arm behind his back. An older version of Lee appeared in a body flicker without Naruto noticing until he loudly said, Lee. Team 3 and 7 jumped at the sudden appearance of the man wearing a bright green spandex suit with a bullset hair. Are you okay, Lee? His teammates asked their teammate who was getting up from the cracked floor. Yep, good fight, Naruto, he said cheerfully, ignoring his team's gaped mouths. In response, Naruto nods and went back to his team. Mito then scolded him for going too far in the fight, while Guy started to scream about youth, which made Lee do the same. After his lovely conversation about youth ended with him sending the two teams away so they won't be late. When they reached the doors to the examination room, bloodlust from inside was seeping out the large double doors, making them sweat. They opened the door and a bunch of shinobis from many different lands turned their heads to them. They walked inside with everyone's eyes following their each and every move. The older team went to the right and the other went to their friends from the academy. Sasuke-kun, Ino shouts as her arms wrapped around Sasuke's neck. He glared at her, which Ino found very attractive and continued to annoy him with hugs and compliments. Took you long enough, Kiba scoffs. Shut it, dog breath, Mito says. What did you say, dead last? The two started arguing, which was nothing new to the Konoha rookies, but it definitely drew attention to the others in the room. I suggest you quiet down, a boy with white hair and round glasses said. Who are you? Shikamaru asks. I'm Kabuto. You do know you're drawing attention by shouting, right? We are, Mito and Kiba said, dumbfounded. Idiots, Sasuke grumbled. By the way, would you like to get some information on the other teams? Why would you help us? Shikamaru asks suspiciously. Well, we're from the same village and you're rookies, so I thought I'd help you out, Kabuto said. He pulled out a deck of cards out of his pocket and shuffled them. Rock Lee and Sabaku no Gara. That's it. Uzumaki Naruto, Mito said. When everyone gave her a confused look on why she chose her own teammate, she pouts, What? We have the same last name, so I'm just curious. All right, Kabuto said before shuffling his cards. When he was done, he placed 3 cards facing down in front of him. He turned over the first card and it said, Name Rock Lee. Age 14. Rank Genin. Relatives unknown. Team Maikai Sensei Tenneji. Ninjutsu none. Taijutsu lo Chunin. Jinjutsu none. So his only skill is Taijutsu? Choji asked while munching on chips. Yes, Kabuto responded before turning over the card next to it. Name Sabaku no Gara. Age 13. Rank Genin. Relatives Rasa Karura Temari Kinkuro. Team Baki Sensei Temari Kinkuro. Ninjutsu unknown. Taijutsu unknown. Jinjutsu unknown. He's from a different village, so it is to be expected, Kabuto sighs. Wait, isn't Rasa the Kazekage? Said Shikamaru. He is, he said after revealing the last card's information. Mito looked over excitedly, wanting to know if she and Naruto were somehow related. As she scanned the card, her eyes went wide on what she saw. Chunin exams 2, secrets revealed. Mito looked over excitedly, wanting to know if she and Naruto were somehow related. As she scanned the card, her eyes went wide on what she saw. Name Uzumaki Naruto. Age 13. Rank Rudanbo. Relatives classified Mito. Team Kakashi Sensei Sasuke Mito. Ninjutsu unknown. Taijutsu unknown. Jinjutsu unknown. What? Mido's shout was heard by everyone in the room as she turned her head to Naruto, whose eyes narrowed at Kabuto. Is this true? Did you know about this? She asks with glowing eyes. It's not true. Are you sure we look alike too? I'm sure, Naruto denies. I don't believe you, she huffs. Naruto shrugs and listened to Kabuto say, all the information from my cards are true. Really? Mido said excitedly on finding out she had family. He could be lying, the pineapple head said. Anyways, what is Root Anbu? There are Anbu Black Ops, but I've never heard of Root. Naruto shrugs at Shikamaru's question and kept ignoring his sister, who kept bothering him with questions. I wonder who's older, she asked. Who do you think our parents were? She asked again. What do you mean you don't know? Shikamaru says over Mido. Kabuto could be lying, Naruto repeated his statement, which the Nara hummed in response. Mido continued to bombard Naruto with more and more questions, which he skillfully ignored, and instead, he questioned why Kabuto had so much information. How did Kabuto get my rank and relatives? I understand how he could have gotten the rest, but not those. Is there a spy? If so, I need to report this to Danzo-sama. His thought was cut off when someone appeared in a puff of smoke just like Kakashi's. My name is Ibiki Morino. The man who just appeared with a couple Chunins said in a powerful voice, I'll be your examiner for this round. He then made everyone find their assigned seats with a shout and explained the rules while the Chunins in the room handed out the test papers. There are 10 questions and you have 40 minutes to answer all 9 questions. If you finished, wait for me to announce the 10th. He said before continuing, everyone will get 10 points at the beginning, and once you get to 0, you and your team fail. If you're caught cheating, you'll lose 2 points, which means you can't be caught cheating 5 times. After a while of silence, he started the exam. The sounds of pencil on paper began to rise along with points getting taken off. Within 20 minutes of the exam, the first shinobi lost all 10 points. A kunai was launched where the shinobi was, scaring him and the person in front of him, who almost got hit. Get out, said the strict voice of Ibiki. What? I said get out. After a while of arguing, the Morino scared him enough for him and his team to leave. With Naruto, he was answering every question with ease, not needing to cheat like the others. When he was done, which didn't take long, he raised his hand, catching the proctor's attention. What? He says harshly. I finished. You finished? Yes. Are you sure? When he got a nod, he sighed and said, all right, go wait outside. He got another nod when he watched the boy stand up and pass him the exam sheet before leaving through the double door. 20 minutes later, the door opened by one of the Chunins, and he let Naruto back in. While going back to his seat, the proctor was saying, before I announce the 10th question, you are allowed to leave right now. Why would we do that? A genin asked. That's because if you get this question wrong, you and your team won't be able to take the Chunin exams again. What? That's not fair. Is that even allowed? Complaints from the desk started to rise, causing Ibiki to slam the table in front of him. I guess you're just unlucky to have me as your proctor, since I'm the one who decides the rules and you don't, he snapped with killer intent radiating off him. They quickly quieted down, and one by one, they began leaving with their teams. Soon enough, there was only a couple teams left in the room. The proctor scanned the room and smirked. You pass. What? A confused genin said. The 10th question is if you're willing to risk being a genin forever, he answered. Before he could continue his lecture, the window beside him crashed and a woman with purple hair tied into a ponytail jumped through. You're early, Ibiki sighs. And you're getting soft, she huffs. I'm not. This year's genins are just impressive. I don't believe you. She turned to the genins and smirked with an evil glint in her eye and introduced, my name is Anko Mitarashi, your new proctor. Now, follow me or you're disqualified. Anko jumps out of the broken window, with the genins rushing out to catch up. When they arrived, the out-of-breath genins stood outside of the gates of what looks like a giant forest filled with bloodlust. This is Training Ground 44, also known as the Forest of Death. Anko said with a Chunin giving bunch of paper to her. She gave it to the nearest genin and said, "Hands these out, please." "What are these for?" someone asks as she got the paper. "These are contracts in case you die." Die. Anko nodded. "If you sign the contract, the village nor me will be responsible if you die." The girl nodded nervously, and once everyone got their contracts, Anko explained, "For this exam you will receive one of these." She pulled out 2 scrolls. "This is the Heaven Scroll." Anko showed the white-colored scroll with the character, Chinese letter. "And this is the Earth Scroll." She showed the blue scroll which had the character, Chinese letter, written in the middle. "To pass, you'll need to get the opposite scroll and take it to the tower in the middle of the forest. Unless you're at the tower, you're not allowed to open the scroll. If you get caught doing so, you'll be disqualified, got it?" she said sadistically. Everyone nodded in fear, excluding 2 people who were chatting away. The sadist noticed this and her eyes glimmered in excitement. "You shouldn't believe something on a card, Maito." "I know, I'm just wondering." "I recommend listening to the rules as you might get disqualified if you break any of them," the sadist interrupted with a kunai going in front Naruto and Maito's throat. Naruto noticed this, so he quickly flashed behind her and pinned her on the floor with her hand bent backwards to aim the kunai on herself. She puffed away in a cloud of smoke and a kunai was aimed for Naruto's head. He dodged it easily and a voice rang out, "Not bad, brat." He glared. "Anyways, once you signed it, one of your teammates will head to that tent to get your scroll," she said, pointing to the tent. Chunin Exams 3, Forest of Death. The genins raced forward as the large gates from the Forest of Death slowly creaked open. With Team 7, Naruto quickly sealed their Earth Scroll and put it in his pocket since it was agreed that he would be the best to keep it. They were jumping through the unusually large trees while concealing their pressure and sensing in case of any enemies nearby. It didn't take long as they kept running through the trees until Naruto stopped. "Naruto, what's wrong?" Maito said confusedly. He pointed at the forest floor where a team was. They seemed to be arguing about something which made them easy to ambush. Team 7 nodded at each other and went into position without a word. Naruto stood behind the shouting male while Sasuke stood above the female who was shouting back, and Maito was hiding near the other male who was trying to calm his team. "Shut up," the girl said to the anxious boy before arguing with the other again. "We shouldn't have taken this exam," she yelled. "They made us sign consent forms, and can't you hear the screams as soon as the gates opened? That's the whole point of this test. I don't care, we could get killed here." They kept arguing, getting louder and louder, and when their ambushers decided it was time, they signaled to each other and jumped to them. In under a second, the team had kunais to their throats, daring them to move. "Scroll," Naruto's deadly voice whispered into the angry male. "Why should I tell you?" Naruto did reply as he checked the most obvious spot you could put a scroll in, the weapons pouch. "How did you know?" "It's obvious, dumbass," Sasuke scoffed. He grets his teeth. I told you we shouldn't have taken this exam," the girl stutters before Team 7 retreated far from the team and went deeper into the forest. When the team was far enough, they took a look at the stolen scroll. On the scroll, it said the word Earth, which was the same as theirs. Naruto sighs and seals it with theirs. They continued looking around for more teams, and after a while of running, the team got a little tired and decided it was best to rest for a while. They stopped at a clearing with trees and bushes surrounding it. Suddenly, Maito says, "I need to go to the toilet, I'll be right back." "Hey, Chen." "Hey." When Maito was done, she was going to go back to her team when a giant snake attacked her. It shot towards her while opening its mouth that could swallow her easily. When it did, Maito was trapped in the snake's throat, panicking on what to do. After endless attempts to escape by stabbing it with shurikens and kunais, she eventually had an idea. She made a cross sign with her index and middle finger, and with a shout, she screamed, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." A bunch of Maitos popped into existence, which let Maito escape. She jumped out of the snake's mouth and ran back to her team. Without any suspicions, Maito went back to her team to see a pale man with a snake-like tongue fighting with her teammates. "Naruto, Sasuke," she shouts just before the enemy's neck extended and bit Sasuke on the neck, forming a seal. She watched as Sasuke collapsed on the floor and ran towards him. The guy noticed her and swung her away by summoning one of his massive snakes on her. Mito crashed into a tree, leaving a large dent. She spat out blood and fell down on the floor as the snake popped itself away. The last thing she saw was a transparent orange coat with fox ears and two tails surrounding Naruto, who now had red eyes. Orochimaru, Naruto's raspy voice said. The Kyuubi interesting, he licked his lips. Naruto, feeling an emotion he hasn't felt in a long time, went all out and attacked the snake Sannin with no mercy. The ground shook beneath them as Naruto swung one of his chakra tails at Orochimaru. He barely ducked in time for it to smash on a nearby tree, creating a massive dent. Snakes came out of Orochimaru's arm, which chased the young Anbu around the clearing. Using his tails again, Naruto burnt the snakes into ashes with the touch of the orange chakra. After, he jumped back, deciding it was the most safest with his mind barely in control. He took a stance that resembled a fox standing and leaped towards the man who ducked. Naruto, on instinct, knew this would happen and prepared a bijou bomb when Orochimaru's eyes was off him. He fired the bomb, which went straight through his head in unimaginable speeds, also hitting the trees and wildlife behind him. The cloak that surrounds Naruto slowly dissolved into nothingness because the bijou bomb would have killed any human being, especially when so close, but to Naruto's surprise, the supposedly dead snake Sannin's mouth opened unnaturally wide and an uninjured one came out. Naruto's eyes widened and he would have took his teammates and retreated, but after using the Kyuubi's chakra, he became nauseous and wasn't able to do so. Orochimaru gave a satisfied smirk and flashed away with a quick body flicker, leaving Naruto barely conscious. With his blurry vision and massive headache, he noticed a scroll where Orochimaru disappeared, and with his last bit of strength, he managed to get a hold of it and hiding it in his pocket before collapsing. Team 10, who heard a familiar voice call one of their classmates' name, rushed to the clearing right after Orochimaru disappeared, was shocked on who made their classmates so close to death but quickly went over to help after seeing the last of their team, Naruto, collapse. They brought them to a den which served as a safe spot until they recovered. What a drag, Shikamaru sighs as he plopped Sasuke on the ground. Hey. Naruto sprung up after regaining his consciousness. He looked around the dark and empty den and after grabbing a kunai, he walked outside. Naruto, Mito says happily. He put back his weapon and asked, what happened? We found you three unconscious and took you here until you woke up, Shikamaru said lazily. That was 3 days ago. 3 was the blonde's surprising reaction. Yes, Ino said. What happened? He asked seriously. Well, on the second day, Sasuke-kun woke up and swirls started coming from his neck and, well, Ino trailed off. Then I woke up and punched Sasuke to stop him from going crazy, Mito said with a grunt coming from Sasuke afterwards. Anyways, since you're up, Shikamaru said, we're going to leave since we still need to get a scroll. Is the scroll you need an earth scroll? Naruto asks. Yeah, Ino replied. She watched Naruto unsealed an earth scroll and gave it to them. We had an extra, he explained. Really? Choji's eyes sparkled at the thought of leaving the forest sooner than he thought. What about you? Asked Ino. He took out a heaven scroll from his pocket. How did you get that? Mito asked surprisedly. I managed to get this from the fight with Orochimaru. Who's Orochimaru? He's that snake man from the fight, Sasuke said. Naruto nodded and they went their separate ways after thanking each other for their help. Chunin exams 4 preliminaries. Naruto and his team went through the tower doors and walked in a large stadium where some of the Genin participants were standing in front of the Hokage. The previous proctors, senseis and Danzo, who was eyeing Naruto, wondering how a Genin could deal that much damage to him. Congratulations, you passed the second round of this exam, the Hokage spoke. Unfortunately, there are too many people for the final round, so now we'll be hosting a preliminary round to half the number of people. That's not fair, some people got here earlier than us, a Genin complained. Yes, but some cages and daimyos are going to watch the finals, so we can't afford waste their time, he explained. Also, if you're unable to fight, you are free to leave. He looked around the room and before he was about to continue, spotted a hand raising. The old cage nodded at the man with white hair and glasses who left the room, and after a few more complaints from the genins, they managed to start the preliminaries. Two boards began to spin through all the remaining genins' names. Seconds later, it landed on Uchiha Sasuke versus Akado yours. The proctor instructed everyone but the names on the board to leave the arena and go to the stands to begin. When 3 people were left in the arena, the proctor said, "Begin." Yori moved first. He went straight to Sasuke, trying to take him down quickly. Sasuke made some distance between them and created a massive fireball jutsu which managed to hit Yori. The proctor thought it was over until Yori used the flame to get close to Sasuke, and using his hand, he slammed it into his face, which caused his body to fall on the hard ground. Chakra began seeping out of Sasuke's head and into Yori's palm, causing confusion to the teams on the stands. He was slowly taking all the chakra from Sasuke, making him more tired, and as time passed by, almost all his chakra was seeped out of him. Just as the proctor was going to announce Yori as the winner, swirls from Sasuke's neck unraveled and a burst of killing intent shot through the arena. Yori's eyes widened as Sasuke suddenly grabbed his wrist that was covering his face so tightly that he was forced to let go so it won't break. From that moment, Sasuke was able to overpower his opponent and win the fight. Winner Uchiha Sasuke, the proctor announced. Cheers mostly from the Konoha shinobi rang through the stands as the medics carried Yori to the hospital to get treated. As Sasuke walked up the stairs to his team, Kakashi told the Uchiha to follow him to get his cursed mark sealed. A few rounds has gone by with Kankuro and Temari from Sunagakure winning and Shino, Shikamaru and Mito winning from Konohagakure. For the 7th round, it was finally Naruto's turn with him against Inuzuka Kiba. They stood in front of the proctor, facing each other and waiting for him to start the match. Begins. In a flash, the Jinchuriki raced towards Kiba, who was barely able to dodge Naruto's strong punch to the face. He called out to his dog, Akamaru, and together, they tried their best to hit Naruto, using all sorts of methods like jutsus and giving Akamaru a large red pill. While Kiba was getting worn out by every attack his opponent makes, Naruto decides to end it. He takes a kunai and flickers behind Kiba so fast that he wasn't able to comprehend it until it happened. Winner Uzumaki Naruto. Everyone who had passed were lined up in front of the proctor, who was holding a wooden box. "Congratulations on passing," he said. "Please pick a number from this box before I explain what the final round." Once everyone picked a number from the box, he said, "The finals will happen next month, giving time for you to get stronger. You'll be fighting the person with the number next to yours at the beginning, and whoever wins will fight with the next until one is left." "Doesn't that mean only one person gets to become Chunin?" Temari asked. "No, even if you fail, the cages can make you Chunin, meaning that all of you can become one." He pulled out a piece of paper that showed who would be fighting who. Uzumaki Naruto versus Hyuga Neji. Uchiha Sasuke versus Sabaku no Gaara. Iburam Shino versus Sabaku no Kankuro. Nara Shikamaru versus Sabaku no Temari. Uzumaki Mito versus Inoyamanaka. "These are the people you'll be fighting. Good luck," the proctor says before dismissing them. Naruto just arrived back at the Ambu base and he went straight to Danzo's office. "Come in," he says through the door. Naruto enters and bows, saying straightforwardly, "Danzo-sama, I found a traitor participating in the exams." His eyes widened but quickly went back to the way it was before and asked, "Who?" "Kabuto, he's the one who quit in the preliminaries. He knows 2 S-class secrets, which is my Anbu rank and about Mito," Naruto said with his clenched fist. "Does Mito know?" Danzo said, glancing at Naruto's clenched fist. "Yes." He thought for a while, thinking what to do of this situation, and finally said, "Pretend this didn't happen, ignore her if you have to." Also, during the second part of the exam, Orochimaru was there and placed a cured mark seal on Sasuke, Naruto reports while trying to suppress the venom in his voice. After contemplating his decisions, Danzo said, "Kill Kabuto, make it as if he left the village." "Yes, sir." At around the same time, Mito excitedly barged in the Hokage's office that had a team of Chunin inside. Jiji, she says. Good work, you're dismissed, he says before turning his attention to a hyperactive Maido. Jiji. Yes, Maido. Is it true that I'm Naruto's sister? Oh, maybe, he says. How did you find out? Kabuto told me. Kabuto, where have I heard that name before? He asks himself. Anyways, I can think about that later. I should call Naruto and Danzo since Maido deserves an explanation. Tiger, the cage calls. Hokage-sama, said a tiger-masked Anbu who knelt in front of Maido and the Hokage. Bring Naruto and Danzo for me. Yes. He body flickered away and left Maido asking more questions to the Sandame. So it is true. All about that, he said, trying to find an excuse. The door opens and like what the Hokage ordered, the Anbu tiger brought Naruto and Danzo to his office. Tiger bowed before leaving and the two walked inside. Why did you call us Hiruzen? Danzo asks his old friend. Well, Chunin exams 5 siblings. Well, the Hokage starts. Maido says that you're her brother Naruto. So is it true? Zarutobi sighs and says, it's true, you're Naruto's sister. She bounces around the room excitedly while saying, I told you, Naruto. If I may, Sarutobi, Danzo said, why were we called here? Naruto already knows that he has a sister and I have nothing to do with this. I simply felt that Naruto should be here and since you're his guardian, you should know that Maido found out. Wait, why was it a secret? Maido curiously said. It was so that Naruto could focus on becoming useful to the village without any interruptions, Danzo said. Useful to the village. The Hokage then coughed. He interrupted them and said, how about you two go and spend some time together? I need to talk to Danzo about some things. Okay, Jiji, she says while dragging a bowing Naruto out of the cage's office. So what were the things you needed to talk with me about? Orochimaru. After Hokage's one word, the entire room became tense. He shooed the 4 hidden ambus away before continuing. Some of my ambus found it out that Orochimaru's been planning to attack the village on the final round of the Chunin exams. Danzo suppressed a growing smirk and waited for his old friend to continue. Hey. Let's eat ramen, Naruto, Maido says excitedly as she drags the blonde around the village. She stops at a ramen stand run by a man and his daughter. Tuchai I am, she greets. Welcome, Tuchai said. Oh, I've been here before, Naruto mumbles to himself. You have, Maido asks. Yes, with Kakashi-sensei. What, Kakashi-sensei brought you out for ramen? She jealously cries. Naruto muffled a chuckle and sat down the stools with Maido. Tuchai took their order and they patiently waited for it to arrive. Hey. The sun was setting as Naruto was running around the village. His hood was fully pulled up, covering his fox-masked face and his cloak that was covering his body, which makes it difficult to aim for specific points of his body. By the time he located Kabuto, it was the perfect time for an assassination, a pitch-black sky with the moon hiding behind clouds. The young assassin peeked through the living room window of the hotel Kabuto and his team were staying in. There seemed to be a small argument before Kitsune's target shut the door, leaving his teammates in the room. He watched Kabuto come out of the hotel and take a stroll around the village with Kitsune hearing faint mumbles every once in a while. Patiently, he waits for a chance to attack, and when he sees Kabuto go to the men's bathroom, he got an idea and waited in a corner outside. He masked his presence so well that he was basically a ghost to anyone who was a low jonin or below, and minutes later, the man he was ordered to kill stepped out. Managing to avoid the fatal slice to the neck with instinct only, Kabuto dodged more blows from the blonde Anbu. Kitsune was slowly draining the energy out of Kabuto with his large stamina and reserves compared his. It was only until Kitsune was choking him using his right arm that Kabuto was able to get an advantage. He was taller than Kitsune, so his speed, he was able to make the Jinchuriki loose grip and throw him onto the ground. The root agent gasped for air, and Kabuto then pointed 2 senbon needles against his throat. Before he could put Kitsune into a death-like sleep, the blonde substituted with a stick not so far away. Using the confusion, Naruto sped through the hand signs for a powerful wind bullet jutsu and accurately blasted them through Kabuto's neck, piercing deep, bloody holes inside. Kitsune sealed the body in a scroll and started working on cleaning the place to hide if any evidence. An hour later, he was finally done, and he flickered a few miles away from Konohagakure's gates. He unsealed the scroll he was carrying Kabuto in and took off his shoes to make footprints on the ground and tree branches, slowly leading further away from the village. Naruto also made sure that he was leaving Kabuto's scent while covering his own as he was completing the mission. When he was done, he double-checked everything and went straight back to report to his leader. When he arrived, he went through the narrow entrance which was guarded by 2 ambush and went straight to Danzo's office. "Danzo-sama, I've completed the mission," Naruto states. He nods in acknowledgement and waits for his ambu to report. "I located Kabuto in his hotel's living room where he was in an argument with his teammates," Naruto says. "Hey. You're dismissed," Danzo said before Naruto disappears from the room. Right after, there was a knock on his office. He let them in, saw that one of his root agents was bringing in a monkey that was latched onto the agent's arm. "The Hawkage sent a messenger, Danzo-sama," he says. Danzo motioned for the Anbu to bring the monkey to him, and once it landed on his desk, the Anbu bowed and disappeared. The monkey took out a scroll with a seal that only allowed Danzo to open it, and when he released the seal, the monkey also disappeared. Danzo opened the scroll and it said, "Danzo, my ambush found it out that Kabuto is working for Orochimaru. In the finals, send some of your ambush to surround the arena and help with the attack." Naruto by Hiruzen. After reading, Danzo's eyes shined before he made a quick fireball jutsu and burnt the letter into ashes. With a plan in mind, he opened a drawer from his desk and took out a large piece of blank paper and dipped his brush into the ink jar and began drawing the layout of the arena. Once he was done, he drew out the Anbu squads around the arena like the Hawkage asked for. When he was done, he left his office and went into a larger room with a stage. He put his palm over the Anbu tattoo on his shoulder, which signaled all his root operatives who weren't on missions to come to him. By the time 5 minutes have passed, all his ambush arrived and were waiting for their leader's orders. Chunin Exam 6, Danzo's Plan. Naruto listened as Danzo spoke his plan for the Chunin exam's final round. "There is going to be an attack sent by Orochimaru on the final round of the Chunin exams, and with this attack, I plan to use this to become the Hawkage," he says bluntly. "The Hawkage's orders are for me to send some ambush to surround the arena until the attack. Teams 3 and 5 will surround the arena and," Danzo said, listing teams and their jobs. "Since Orochimaru would most likely be the one to fight the Hawkage, me Team 13 are to stay near their fight and make sure Sarutobi dies." When he was finished, he said, "When Orochimaru starts his attack, every team will kill any Anbu Black Ops they come across." Hey. Danzo had just dismissed his ambush, and with Naruto, he was going over what Danzo ordered him to do. "When you finished your fight, change into your Anbu uniform and stay hidden until the attack starts. When it begins, your first priority is to go to kill Hiruzen's bodyguards, and after that, join and help Team 15. Naruto agreed to the plan, but with every day coming closer to the finals, he couldn't help but worry about his teammates. He wanted to take his mind off of things, so he went to the forest to train by himself. While he was abusing the log he founded with jutsus and kicks, Danzo sneakily came up to him. As soon as Naruto noticed his presence, which wasn't quick, he instinctively turned around and grabbed a kunai, not noticing it was Danzo. When he got a look at him and noticed it was Danzo, he put his kunai away and bowed his head. "Sorry, I didn't notice it was you, Danzo-sama," Naruto apologized. "It's fine, I was the one who sneaked up on you," Danzo said. "What are you doing here?" Naruto asks after an awkward silence, tilting his head. "To train you." "To train me?" "I don't believe you are strong enough to kill Hiruzen's bodyguards yet," he explains. Naruto nodded at his explanation, and Danzo begins his training. Danzo trained Naruto every single day until there was a week left until the last round. He made sure his training was harsh in order to push Naruto to his limits and that he wouldn't be able to get up when he was finished. Naruto panted as sweat dripped from his face. He had just finished a spar with Danzo, and while he watched the sunset, Danzo was finally letting Naruto rest after almost a month of torturous training. "I'll let you have the week off since you have to rest and prepare to the final round," Danzo says. Naruto nods, too tired to speak, and with his last bit of energy left inside of him, he makes his way back to the Root Anbu base. Hey. Loud cheers came from above as 9 people stood at the center of the arena. "Where's Sasuke?" the proctor asks. When no one gave an answer, he sighs and says, "Whatever. To everyone besides Uzumaki, Naruto, and Hyuga Neji, please leave the arena." When only the said people were left, the proctor raises his arm and says, "Begin." Neji smirks smugly and says, "Fate chose me as the winner as soon as we were paired to fight each other." Naruto ignored his declarations and jumped back to make hand seals. "Wind-style gale palm," he mumbled as compressed wind is formed into a gale and charges to Neji. He stepped to the side before the gale could slice him and said cockily, "It's no use, you can't defy fate." Right after he finished his sentence, the gale palm turned around, cutting deeply into an unsuspecting Neji's back. The Hyuga coughed out blood and glared at his opponent. "You," Neji says with killer intent. He changes into a Hyuga stance and shouts, 8 trigrams, 64 palms. His palms move in an untraceable speed as they try to hit Naruto. Anyone looking would have a hard telling whether they were actually hitting the blonde because of the sheer speed. With Naruto and Neji, though, Neji was gritting his teeth on how Naruto was able to dodge all 64 of his attacks when in reality, Naruto was only able to dodge them because of his sensing abilities and experience. Naruto decided that it has gone on for long enough, and when Neji shouts the 64th palm, Naruto dodged again and uses one of his hands to tightly grip Neji's neck. He pushed Neji to the ground as he was gasping for air, not even letting him speak, and it stayed like that until the proctor came down and announced Naruto as the victor. As the root agent goes up the stairs, Neji was immediately taken to the hospital to treat his wounds. "Uchiha Sasuke and Sabaku no Gaara, please come to the arena," the proctor calls. The Ikibai Jinchuriki landed on the stage with his sand, and they waited for Sasuke. 10 minutes later, Sasuke still wasn't there, which got the crowd and Gaara annoyed. "Where's Sasuke?" someone said. "Yeah, where is he?" A Chunin then flashed next to the proctor and whispered something into his ear. He nodded and said, "Because Uchiha Sasuke isn't here, their match will be postponed." Comments like, "What, we've been waiting for this match," rang through the audience. He sighed and said the next match, ignoring the angry cries. With Naruto, his body flickered away from where the final stage was being held and changed into his Anbu uniform. He placed his fox mask, which fitted perfectly on his face, and went back. When he arrived, he masked his presence and hid under the stairs. Hey. She had just won her match against Ino and was looking for Naruto. "Where's he?" she says as she left the arena. She went back to the stands and heard the proctor call, "Uchiha Sasuke and Sabaku no Gaara, please go to the arena." Gaara appeared in a swirl of sand like before, and the Uchiha was still nowhere to be found. "Og, now both my teammates are missing," Mito cried out. 10 minutes have passed and the Uchiha was still missing. The audience was starting to complain and get rowdy, so the proctor was about to announce Gaara as the winner by default when a gust of wind and a swirl of leaves appeared, revealing Kakashi and his student, Sasuke. The proctor glared at the sensei, knowing it was his fault Sasuke was late, and started the match quickly. "Begin," he says as he sighs a breath of relief. Chunin Exam 7, Shukaku's attack. "Begin," he says as he sighs a breath of relief. Gaara lifted his arm and sand immediately shot out at Sasuke, who jumped back and created a fireball jutsu. It went against the sand as it made a barrier to protect Gaara. He raised his hand again while glaring. He mumbled, "Sand coffin." His sand wrapped around Sasuke and covered his whole body starting from the ground. As he closed his hand, the sand started to get smaller, squeezing the Uchiha to death. Everyone thought it was over, and some of his academy classmates started to scream and shout his name when a loud, high-pitched chirp came from the coffin. To everyone's surprise, the sand cracked and eventually broke, showing a bleeding but alive Sasuke. Gaara, whose eyes also went wide, snapped, and a fast-packing blob of sand ran straight to his opponent. Sasuke also ran to it, but when it was about to collide with him, he swiftly turned to the side, successfully dodging it, and ran to Gaara. His sand covered him, making a ball with spikes coming out of it. Sasuke didn't stop though, and he instead created a bright ball in his hand with electricity coming out of it and shouted, "Chidori." His powerful jutsu went against Gaara's sand, leaving the audience leaning on the edge of their seats. They watched carefully, wondering who would win, when suddenly the sand started to crack. It spread and eventually it broke a hole in it. Sasuke's Chidori went straight in, not hesitating in the slightest, and hit Gaara. His eyes widened as it turned yellow and his pupils into slits. The Jinchuriki's blood dripped onto his palm for the first time in his life, and he screamed, "Blood, it's my blood." His sand already retreated into the ground when an unusually large smile appeared on his face as he looked crazily at Sasuke. Sand started to wrap around his arm and created a large sand claw. A screeched and feathers started falling from the sky, making the civilians and some genins fall asleep. With the Ikibai now in control, he enhanced Gaara's speed and strength to claw his way out of the arena and run away. Sound of kunai scraping against each other and jutsus being thrown at one another were heard all over the arena and stands. Kitsune left his hiding spot under the stairs and was running towards Danzo when he saw Sasuke and Mito following Gaara. What are they doing? He stopped running, knowing his teammates would be in danger. He contemplated on whether to follow orders or help his teammates for what felt like an eternity when the root agent, Duck, jumped down behind him. "Kitsune, what are you doing?" he asked. "Nothing," he responded blankly as he turned and jumped away. Duck looked at where Kitsune was just standing and thought, Kitsune was supposed to go to Danzo-sama's direction, so why is he going there? He signed to his team, who was hiding around the area, and body flickered to Danzo's direction. Naruto headed to the forest, quickly jumping from tree to his teammates' direction. "What am I doing?" he muttered as he followed his teammates' trails. He was halfway there when he suddenly sensed 3 Anbu's presence. One was right above him, another was a few meters behind, and the other was a few meters in front. Kitsune unsheathed his sword from his back and waited for them to make a move. It didn't take long as all 3 of the Anbus raced towards him. He jumped away when the Anbu from above leaped down, slashing his sword on where his shoulders would have been. They didn't let the blonde have time to think, as the moment he landed on the ground, the other 2 Anbus were there, ready to attack. Ropes firmly tied themselves around Naruto's ankles. He reached to his weapon pouch for a kunai when a sword from behind stabbed Naruto's hip. Naruto coughed out blood as he fell on his knees. "Danzo-sama sent us," the leader of the squad said in a monotone. "Surrender now, Kitsune." His vision started to get blurry and all he could hear were muffled voices. The last thing the Uzumaki saw before he went unconscious was the Anbus jumping back. Naruto woke up in a dirty sewer with water dripping up to his ankles. He took out his sword and held it in front of him and started walking. Unsure of where to go, he turned left and right whenever he felt was right and eventually ended up in front of a giant cage that reached to the ceiling. A giant red eye with slits for pupils opened from the cage, glaring at him. "Who are you?" Naruto said cautiously. The eye inside the cage stepped forward, letting his jailer see him fully. He let out a deep chuckle and said, "I'm the Kyuubi, but already knew that, right, brat?" While glaring at him, he asked, "Where am I?" "In your mindscape." "Why?" he said, not affected by the Anbu's glare. "Let me out," he said, not answering the fox's question. He let out a deep chuckle and said, "Come closer." With suspicion, Naruto hesitantly went closer to the cage. When he was right in front of it, a massive claw came from inside the cage and tried to slash him, but luckily, he jumped back just in time to avoid the Biju's claws. He stumbled back, landing on his back. He started feeling dizzy and his vision was getting darker every second when eventually, he went unconscious. Just as he fell on the ground, a sudden burst of red chakra with bloodlust radiating off of it surrounded the limping body, making the leader jump back in surprise. He pulled the sword out and the stab wound began healing itself in a rapid pace. Red chakra then surrounded itself around Kitsune's body, also making long, fox-like ears and a large tail. The Jinchuriki roared and attacked the 3 Anbu in front of him. Somewhere else in the village, a white-haired Sannin felt a strong wave of bloodlust, just like the one he felt 13 years ago during the Kyubai's attack. He immediately ran towards the killer intent and hoped it wasn't who he think it was. When he found the source of all the bloodlust and distress, he saw an Anbu around the height of a young teenager with orange, bubbly chakra surrounding him. His eyes widened and asked himself, is that Chunin exams 8, end. His eyes widened and asked himself, is that the orange figure wearing the standard Anbu uniform with his fox mask that looked like it was going to break in any second stood in front of the Toad Sannin. The three Anbu surrounding the Jinchuriki ignored the confused Sannin and continued their attacks on the boy. Kitsun's attacks were brutal, slowly winning over the Anbus and leaving Jiraiya speechless. Within the next 5 minutes since he arrived, Naruto clawed the last Anbu's eyes out of his skull, leaving 3 deep and large gashes through his head. As the Anbu fell, so did Kitsun with his chakra cloak dissolving like it was never there. The forest then became silent after what felt like eternity, with Jiraiya's footsteps being the only sound heard. He walked over to the blonde, crouching on the ground, and hesitantly took off the boy's mask. As the fox mask slid off his face, 3 whisker marks from each side of his cheek and a face of a 13-year-old boy was revealed, leaving the Sannin wide-eyed. "En Naruto," he mumbled at the sight of the boy he hasn't seen in 13 years. Why are you? Hey. With Sasuke and Mito, they were currently trailing the Ikibai Jinchuriki. It was thrashing its way through the forest, destroying all the trees in its path. Sasuke looked at Mito, who nodded, knowing what he was thinking. Sasuke then made hand signs, and with a deep breath he shouted, "Chidori." A loud, high-pitched ball of lightning formed in his hands, getting Gaara's attention. He stopped and turned his head to the 2 members of Team 7 with glaring, monstrous eyes. The 2 flinched because of the amount of bloodlust put into the glare but didn't back off. They instead charged straight at the red head, with Mito shooting chakra chains from her stomach to hold the tanuki down and Sasuke using the time to aim straight at his face. It roared in agony and ripped off the chains holding him down. A speechless Sasuke turned to Mito, asking, "What was that?" "Wasn't that so cool? It's chakra chains. Pervy Sage taught me it," she exclaimed excitedly. Sasuke nods impressively right before they barely avoided a sandtail swinging towards them by leaping to the branches above. The tail broke down multiple trees before it came to them for a second round. Hey. Jiraiya, while carrying Naruto on his back, went to where he heard multiple trees smash onto the ground and a chaotic screech coming from the Ikibai. When he arrived, he saw Sasuke and Mito barely conscious while being crushed on the ground. Shukaku was rampaging and destroying the whole forest, scaring the animals in it. Jiraiya laid Naruto on a tree stump and went over to the other members of the team. "Mito, Sasuke, are you okay?" he asks worryingly. The Uchiha grunted while he picked the 2 up and carefully carried them to Naruto without the tanuki noticing. He sighed a breath of relief and took out a small, squared piece of paper that resembles a seal and prayed that it would work. He took a deep breath and ran full speed towards the bijou. With his other hand, he formed a Rasengan which collided with the bijou, making a deep dent in the sand tanuki. It sent out a deafening scream of pain, giving just enough time for the Toad Sannin to stick the seal on it. Jiraiya jumped back onto the ground as the bijou's power and control over the Jinchuriki weakened until the sand ninja Gaara was left, unconscious on the ground. Jiraiya relaxed a little, feeling relieved that this was finally over. Hey. Naruto's eyes widened as he quickly sat up from what looks like a hospital bed. His eyes darted around the room, finding any possible threats. A sudden knock was heard from the door in front of him, and Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade came in. "Naruto," she said. His eyes immediately went to the voice, not letting down his guard. Tsunade knew this and said, "Don't worry, we're just here to explain what happened." With this, Naruto relaxed a little but still kept up his guard. Naruto nods and asks, "How long have I been asleep?" "The days after the attack," Jiraiya answered. 3, Naruto said surprisingly. "Yes, but anyways," Tsunade chimed in. "To briefly explain the reports on the attack, your guardian Danzo made an alliance with Orochimaru to kill Sarutobi so he could become Hokage. However, Orochimaru betrayed Danzo and killed him along with Hiruzen." Naruto's eyes widened. So, Danzo-sama and Hokage-sama is dead. Tsunade in a serious tone says yes. Oh. After a few minutes of silence, Naruto overcame his shock and asked, "Who's the new Hokage?" Me, Tsunade said, pointing to herself. Naruto nods and asks with a hint of worry in his voice, "What will happen to Root?" "They'll get disbanded. The children will go to the orphanage and attend the academy like normal civilians, and the adults will get to choose if they want to stay as a shinobi or live a normal life, although I doubt they'll choose the latter," Tsunade answered, mumbling the last bit. Naruto nods, "Thank you." Tsunade nods back and sighs, "Well, I need to go now, get well soon." He nods as Tsunade and Jiraiya left the hospital room. Some time has passed since the attack and now the village is already back to its original state. Konoha's fifth Hokage was also announced a while ago and things were going smoothly. Team 7 has gotten closer, with Sasuke and Naruto slowly becoming friends, even rivals, while Mito, being Naruto's sister, naturally getting closer. The Hokage was sitting in her desk, already dreading the paperwork piling up on her desk when she heard a knock coming from the outside. "Come in," she said. Two Jonins stepped into the room. She looked confused when she saw only two of them. "Where's Naruto?" Tsunade asks. Mito tilted her head before realizing what the Hokage meant. "Oh yeah, where is Naruto Niasen?" In front of a cave that was blocked by crushed rocks stood a boy staring blankly at it. He then looked at the grave he made in front of it, which had beautiful flowers placed in front of it. He stood there in silence until he sensed someone behind him. "Naruto," Sasuke called out. And Naruto hummed. "You're late for the mission briefing," he sighs. "Oh, I lost track of time, sorry." Sasuke rolled his eyes and said, Chen, just don't become like Kakashi-sensei," Sasuke joked. "I know better than that," Naruto scoffed. "Then let's go," the Uchiha said before body flickering away. "Yeah," Naruto said after taking one last look at the grave with the name, Sai. And